Right. Right. Well, there we go. Look at that. I think we're live here. Let's just make sure. Yes, there we are. Welcome, everybody. I've just got to shut down about 10 different pages. There we go. Welcome, everybody, to Hash Church Season 11, Episode 37. We are just chugging along. I feel like we're in the groove right now. It's quite lovely, and I'm going to get to shouting out our sponsors. Give me a few seconds here and welcome everyone who's in the room nice and early, all the regulars who always hold it down oh so wonderfully, and we appreciate you. So thanks for being here today on another Sunday morning. Just going to send out a couple of quick poppers here because that's what you do sometimes. You make sure that your panelists are invited. And in the meantime, let's shout out our sponsors. Shall we? Shall we do that? Didn't give them the best shout out last week as I wasn't here. So today I'll make sure I'm showing the right logos. Listen, the Press Club has been an incredible sponsor. I really hope that you guys don't just tune out when I mention these guys. I hope that you're supporting them, whether it's for press bags, for wash bags, for, cool spoons. They've got magnets to hold parchment. They have all the kind of little cool accessories that you would need and want for pressing. So without further ado, trusted by top hash makers from around the world since 2016, the Press Club is your one-stop shop for award-winning solventless gear. From press bags to wash bags to presses to vessels, you'll find everything you need from wash to press. We are big fans of the Press Club and what they're doing in the community, so we're excited to have them on board as an official sponsor for Hash Church. Made in the USA, patented pink stitch, zero blowout guarantee with a small family-owned business with free expedited shipping over $75 with international shipping available. You can visit them at www.thepressclub.co and use the code HashChurch to take 10% off your purchase. So yeah, shout out to those homies because they're good guys. Now, Puffco, big shout out for the Puffco crew. Huge shout out, really, for powering Hash Church. Puffco's game-changing devices like the Sleek Peak Pro, the Versatile Proxy, and the Compact Pivot. They bring unmatched style and performance, making extracts a vibe for everyone. Their passion for cannabis culture keeps our community blazing strong. Discover the Puffco difference at www.puffco.com, and you can follow them on Instagram at Puffco. I would love to shout out my company, Bubble Bags. We do stand out as the premier choice for water hash extraction, and it's no surprise why. We are the original innovators who set the standard for quality and performance. Crafted with durability in mind, these bags come with a lifetime warranty, ensuring you're covered for years of consistent use. The team behind Bubble Bags takes pride in their pioneering legacy, backing every product with unwavering confidence and a commitment to excellence, making us the trusted go-to for enthusiasts and professionals alike seeking top-tier hash extraction results. You can check us out at www.bubblebag.com. You can use the code HashChurch10 for a 10% discount. So there you go. A shout out to the sponsors. As always, we appreciate you guys. We couldn't do it without you. And yeah, Puffco's got something in the pipe. They've got a new proxy coming out here in the near future. We were going to try and get some of those sort of pre-delivered to some of the panelists, but I think they're releasing it in a couple of days. So we sort of missed the boat on that. But I'm sure you'll be able to check them out at puffco.com. And who knows, maybe we'll end up with one in our hands here at one point in time. Good morning, Caleb. How are you doing?
Good morning. I am doing well.
Oh, I don't hear you. So that must mean I'm not connected to my AirPods. But I do have my microphone going.
Can hear you loud and clear.
Beautiful. And I could just hear you say you could hear me loud and clear. How you doing, man?
Good. I've got gonna be jumping off soon, driving out to Hayfork for the Trinity County Fair later today.
Man, you get to do all the fun stuff, hey?
Yeah.
So
Hayfork
what?
is a very interesting place. It was my first time there on Thursday. They're actually, I think, the first county fair to have cannabis judging. So they did it like back when the state fair was first starting. I think this is their third year doing it.
Oh
And
wow.
it's just like every other fair competition. Like all the farmers are competing for $25 in a ribbon. And that's where the real competition is at for bragging rights.
I like that. I like that. Well, that's state fair style, right? Why wouldn't you
Mhm.
stick with the sort of the historical context of what you've been doing for forever? That's so classic. I got the state fair badge for my pig.
It was a big heifer.
It was a big heifer. That's so cool, man. Man, I must be getting old to think that that's cool. I definitely am. I I got some nice hash balls.
That's a nice hash ball.
Yeah, this one is a mix of CBD material and THC material. So it's very, very hard. I can bounce
Uh,
it.
like a 1-to-1.
It is actually a little bit more. I'd have to go and look at the final test, but I used 65% of the sift came from CBD, but it wasn't just CBD. It was a 1-to-1 CBD. It was 16% CBD, 16% THC. The other one I used 35% of. It was like a sativa, and it was actually about 25% THC on the sift. So it was a 25 plus a 16 on THC and a 16. So it's more like a 2 and a bit to 1, but very, very hard when you use THC with CBD. CBD is incredibly hard. Whereas this one I made with just, oh, fuck, this one doesn't even want to come out, man. Can't even get it out. Oh, there we go. You can see a real nice sheen.
Yeah.
And you can also see how soft it is. I could just poke my fingers right into it and roll it back into a perfect ball. It is absolutely beautiful traditional style hashish, you know? Look at that big bad boy.
Well, we're talking about these ratio things. Some friends that went to Cannabis when they came back, I guess they magically had some hash that they purchased in Amsterdam,
Oh
and
yeah.
they had some Nepali hash and some Moroccan hash that actually had a COA on it. And
Interesting.
the cannabinoid test showed that it was like both of them actually had the same terpene profile and um, cannabinoid profile that was like 5-to-1 THC to CBD.
Wow.
And I always wondered, like, because some of the researchers say that, like, uh, undomesticated landrace population or like the putative ancestors or, the hash plant populations in blank stan, would have been equal parts type 1, type 2, and type 3, which means if
Right.
you just undiscriminately make hash from a, I don't want to use the word wild, but feral population, that you'd end up with exactly 1-to-1 hash, except for whatever, e-carboxylation or isomerization happens naturally. And the fact that we have 5-to-1 hash coming out of, I guess, cultivated fields, uh, kind of shows that they definitely aren't growing those same land races anymore. So maybe hand rubbed hash from feral fields would be 1-to-1. And then as we get further into cultivated fields for hash, it gets closer to 5-to-1, or what we have as a dispensary standard of like 30-to-1 or 100-to-1.
30-to-1.
That's basically what it is. If you have 30% THC and like non-detectable CBD, it's infinity to 1.
Yeah, it's true. It's interesting, man. God, I'm not gonna lie, I love playing with balls of hash. There's another one, another just beauty. Everyone with the sheen just from the bag, and you can see how soft it is, that even the harder hash, it flattens out while it's sitting. It
Under
just
the force of gravity.
it just flattens out under the force of gravity. Oopsie. Hey, how you doing, Jeff?
What up, Bubble Man?
What up?
How the hell are you?
I am really fucking awesome. Am I allowed to say that here?
No, you have to be kicked off now. I'm sorry. That's fucking unfucking acceptable. Just fucking coming
Well,
on here
gosh.
with your sailor mouth.
Well, Galdern.
Gall darny, gall darny. Well, I've been
Galdern, I
fun
should
for a
have been
dab.
more careful.
I've been showing off these balls of hash that I made recently when I was visiting this
Yeah.
new facility. So this is a stabilization test. I need to
Wow.
let these sit for a couple of months at room temperature and play with them every once in a while and make sure that I stabilize them properly. Because stabilizing hash, as a chemist, you might understand this, is not easy. This shit does not
Oh.
want to be stable. It just wants to be volatile. That's what it wants.
Ah, that's interesting. Yeah, so you're trying to get like a good, it's basically like kind of a crust on it, right? Like, is it, or is it more
Exactly.
complicated? Okay.
No, you kind of nailed it. And the reason I want the crust is I've been working with a good friend of mine who's a bloody genius, and he works in holography. And I've probably shown my hologram before, but I can show it again real quick here.
Ooh.
Just to kind of give you an idea, his family's been doing holography for 40 years. So these aren't like this is real holographies, like in a serious way.
Huh.
So this is the sticker right here. The camera doesn't do it justice because you need two eyes for a hologram to work properly. That's how the brain translates. So you're just seeing
Yeah.
kind of half the image and he's just moving the
I can
light.
already, but I can see the complexity of it.
Oh, dude, it's
Yeah.
ridiculous how complex it is.
I'm already really impressed with it. I can see, and I can see as you move, I can see the way it's catching light really
Oh,
particularly.
dude.
It gives me a
It,
sense
it,
of the depth that you'll have in 2D
okay, so that is the
or in
sticker that
3D.
he's done.
Sorry.
Yeah, that's the sticker that he's done for the counterfeiting, the labels that you would put on to avoid counterfeiting, because you absolutely will avoid counterfeiting with this particular technology.
Yeah,
He
with an
already
advanced
sells it.
printing technique, right?
It's
Like,
super
yeah,
advanced, bro. Like he's
yeah.
already doing this on a super high level. Now I'm trying, and it's a bit of a tough one to find, but I want to show you this other one that he did for me, and I think you guys will find it very, very interesting. It's mind blowing, really, but it's like the most like nondescript. Okay, there it is. Super easy to not find um
Ah,
photo. So here we go. I want to show you this. So this is the same hologram, and I don't know if I've shared the sound. Can you hear my friend talking? Food grade silicon fucking lasts forever. How
um,
crazy that this image can be transmitted over and over again, thousands of times. So, what you're looking at is a food grade silicone holographic stamp that can be
yeah.
stamped
Oh
into
man.
THCA, which it
Yep.
will stay there for a very long time because of the crystalline lattice. Now, if you put it into hash that has a skin that you've aged, we should be able to have this image. And there's no ink on this for people that are confused.
No, I
All
get it.
it's doing is these
Yeah,
tanny nanite structures are
yeah,
creating light and color from diffracting the light. The same way you would see it, on the Pink Floyd album where the light
yeah.
is going into the prism and then the clear light and then it's coming out as all the colors. So it took my brain a long time to wrap that there's nothing there. It's just this
It's a photonic
nanoparticle
effect.
structure. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's
It's
so
yeah, it's called a photonic effect. It comes from the fact that there are ordered periodic structures embedded in
exactly.
there that have
Yes.
dimensions that are similar to the dimensions and resonant with dimensions of particular wavelengths of visible light.
Yes.
So the wavelengths of visible light are also expressed in nanometers, and visible light is in the hundreds of nanometers wavelength
Exactly.
range.
So we had Ori on, my good buddy, who's the inventor of this, and he spoke to this a little bit. But we
Yeah.
want to bring this to the cannabis world, both from I'll tell you, he had a really good idea.
That's cool.
And
You
a
know,
lot
some of those techniques were actually invented in my postdoc advisor's lab. The nano
I believe
printing
it.
with silicone.
Yeah. Yeah. So you can't do
Yes.
it really on chocolate because it
Yeah.
disappears. The surface of chocolate is too volatile and it shifts and melts, and the stamp just disappears in a second. But you can do it on THCA. We spoke about doing a cold chain supply one, where once we get cannabis to a cold supply chain, especially the extracts, wouldn't it be cool to prove that it never went below that temperature? And if you created a small little disc of THCA and you stamped it with the silicone
That's
hologram,
so.
it's temperature sensitive. So if it goes under a certain temperature and the surface of the THC melts, the hologram disappears. So
Yeah,
you could know by opening your little jar of hash, maybe it would be a 5 gram baller jar, and you have this little quarter-gram disc of THCA that just sits on top that tells you this hash has been at this temperature
that is
since.
so cool.
Isn't that cool?
That is literally like a White Sides group research project. That's exactly what they would have done. Like, I
Yeah,
love that.
dude.
That's so cool.
Yeah, man.
That's very
Science.
clever.
Oh,
That is
look, I
incredibly
said
clever.
science. I said the word science, and who
Yeah,
do you
it's kind
think
of like
steers?
I believe it's more like engineering in a way, but it's science-ish. It's referring a lot to science. I mean, engineering is awesome too. So I think
Absolutely.
it's
There's
brilliant.
absolutely. I think they
You guys
both,
are inventors. You're pioneers, you know?
got to get it done, man. I
I
think it's a cool
recognize.
thing. It's a cool thing to bring to the world. Yeah, it's unique because people will not be able to wrap their heads around it. They're going to be like, oh, yeah, that's there's ink on there. I wouldn't smoke that. It's like there's no ink.
That's
But you
so
have a hard time explling to someone
a
when the
photon, yeah,
colors,
photonic color
when
is
they're
hard.
that
Yeah.
bright, when you're just
Nope, there's no
squinting,
dye there. It's
no,
just, yeah.
it's
There's
it's
two, there's
trippy,
actually
dude.
there's really basically two mechanisms for giving color to something. One is a resonant mechanism with a dye in some way,
Mm,
and the other is a
mm, mm.
non-resonant mechanism, which is photonics. And that's
Yeah,
what you know, like. But
super cool,
there
man.
are birds' feathers that have their color from
That's right.
structures like that, and they don't have
Yep,
a dye.
yep.
You know,
I've seen that.
there are birds' feathers that look kind of neat and iridescent, metallic, kind of shifting colors, right? And that's coming from the same kind of effect. So there are a
It's
bunch of natural
incredible when you
that
think
show
of
that.
that these colors are just coming from the light out of the sky, that there's no printing on here. There's no,
Yeah.
and because of the way a hologram works, and you really need both eyes to like click it in, you can see on the sheet here
Oh,
how
but
the light.
that's really great quality. I mean, it's really hard to make that work like
Listen,
that
it's
well.
not it's not even funny how hard it is to make it work. When he first posted it, people are like, "Oh, I can do that. I've done it on chocolate." And he's like, "No, no, 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 no. Listen,
Yeah,
this is
yeah.
not the same." He also thought, "How fucking cool." By the way, welcome, Dr. Mark Chaldon. We're happy to have you
Hey,
here
what's up?
today. We're just talking holograms, and I think that it's very cool that yeah, just the concept of holography, and how old school hash was always stamped with that sort of gold stamp. And now we have the new school way where it's like we could put a gold stamp on the middle of a fucking bar of hash, but it's not there. You're not smoking fucking wax or ink or whatever else they've made that stamp out of. It's just diffracted light. I'm not gonna be over this for a while in regards to how cool it is. Nice Puffco, by the way. Is that what we're doing? Puff and Puffcos? Shout out to Puffco.
Yeah,
You got the
man.
fancy new one, man.
I got a nice thing recently. I got a daybreak. I went for it.
Dude, it's such a nice unit, bro. Did you get the red one of these
Yeah.
with it and all that?
Yep.
Hell yeah, dude.
Yep. Yeah. Yeah. I got the daybreak with all the daybreak feet, with all the daybreak accessories. So I guess, yeah, I guess
Good for you.
I'm turning it into a like a little bit like a sneaker head, but for rigs.
Yeah, I'm with you, dude. I'm not gonna lie. I fucking love them. I think it's great. I particularly love when I'm turning people on to dabs for the first time. What I like is the lack of, I don't know what the word is, almost fear of when a torch and a rig, like puffing out of $10,000 rigs that can break are, it's nerve-wracking to people. They just, not
Yeah,
everyone
yeah, I
likes
don't like
that.
it
And
so
then
much,
and then
man.
you're like, hey, look at this super expensive pipe, and people are like, oh, I don't want to touch that. It's not quite the same as like, like, sure, the Puffco's not cheap. It's not $100 tool or whatever. You spend money on it for sure, but fuck if it's not such an incredible little unit, man. I'm telling you, from the
This
mountain
thing's
to the boat,
this is a work of art.
it really
It's
is.
really beautiful.
I see people bashing them still. Someone was like, oh, thank you to my friends who did an intervention and got me off Puffco. I'm like, dude, I puff the Puffco not 24/7, but it's a convenience thing that fits into my schedule. If I'm out and about, I generally carry three of them: a Puffco, a pivot, and a proxy, because they're all a little different. They're all battery operated. So I'm not going to blame Puffco when I forget to fucking, plug in my unit and it's dead, because I see people all the time. Oh, it's fucking dead. It's like, that's because you didn't plug it in, dude. It's kind of on you.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Well, I can understand. I mean, it's not like yeah, it might not be a for everyone kind of a thing, but yeah, I actually really like it and I think this one's really cool. So, yeah.
It looks really cool. Brian has been sending me videos of what he's got going on in Maine, and it's so fucking beautiful. And I don't know why we've had such difficulty. I had to get him to send them through WeTransfer. I had to get him to send them through this fucking thing, through that fucking thing. Anyway,
I
I
think I
have
know
some of
why.
these. I have some of these. You know why? Tell me why.
I think it's the not getting along between the Android and the iPhone, perhaps. Yeah,
For
because
sure.
I've done prepaid Android for like 20 years, pretty much not breaking that trend there. But
That's hilarious.
since I
You
moved
got the
out to
burner phone.
Humble, yeah, since I moved to Humble, I went burner and I haven't gone back because it's just easier. But I think they're not communicating well.
I think you're right. I think that's why a lot of people use WhatsApp, because that sort of connects those two devices. You can
Yeah,
send texts and all this sort of stuff. But I've got some of these anyway, dude. I don't know how many I
cool.
have. I think I have quite a few actually. Why don't we go
Yeah,
through some of these and you can kind of, walk us through. Dude, they're so fucking beautiful, dude. It's absolutely.
man. Thank you,
What's that?
thank you. Thanks for saying that. You know, it's
Well,
a labor
fuck.
of
I'll
love.
tell you one thing. You can see that you put fucking labor into this. So let's start out with fucking Rainbow Baller. I call this one. I call this one Rainbow Baller because there's a beautiful rainbow, and you're like, oh, look at the beautiful rainbow. But you don't fucking realize he's got these giant fucking plants at the bottom of the rainbow. Those
Yeah,
got to be
It doesn't
fucking
I mean,
five
it
to
doesn't
10
take you
pounders,
that
no?
long to notice the gold at the bottom of the rainbow, but yeah.
It
yeah,
doesn't. But look at that
It's a
fucking full
spectacular
rainbow, bro.
photograph
Dude, a
yeah. I
full
get
fucking rainbow.
or video,
really
I guess.
epic rainbows here with the lay of the property, the way that that's looking out towards east into
Oh.
southeast, and anytime a rain hits, we haven't had a lot of rain, so that was just we literally didn't see any rain, but the rainbow popped, so it was kind of special because no rain but rainbow, and it was a
I don't think
fully.
you could have. I don't think you could have gone to a better thing either after the rainbow. This just beautiful line of fucking colorful sunflowers with, like, what do you got? Like marigolds and poppies on the bottom there. Like,
Man, thanks for noticing. Actually, this is like my third year doing this where I plant between the rock sets
I
with
love
this
yeah,
year.
that.
dude.
I did
It works
all
really
three.
cool. I love the way that worked.
I did aster, marigold to sunflower combo, and they mostly popped. Right now, they're all still popping, and I just geeked out on it literally like every single day. Not like, but every single day, and just having fun with it. I enjoy it.
Dude, it's so pretty, man. And the
Yeah,
colors and the, like, I'll be honest, like when you showed it to me, it was kind of like the way your Instagram account is. It just checks the boxes. Like when you see a photo of a beautiful woman or a beautiful car or any type of, like, just beautiful line, the same as your hash, really, to be honest. I could see it in a picture of, like, a beautiful pizza that was, like, cooked to
yeah,
perfection, like it's all
absolutely.
of your shit is just on point, and I'm guessing it's all that extra work. I think it's actually your passion that I'm seeing, because it's
Yeah.
like it's the opposite of repellent. It's attractive. It
Man,
like
you're
pulls you
fine.
in like a fucking am I wrong here, guys?
I'm happy that you enjoy it like this, Marcus. It was really like, a special opportunity to share this because I don't actually I'm a farm hermit more than ever. I doubled down
Fuck,
this
are you
year.
ever, dude?
Yeah, I doubled down, but I'm kind of like creeping into my nice little pocket of that and actually loving like the peace and the beautiful colors with the flowers and the
Dude, it's
cannabis is
so
going quite
nice.
well. Yeah, it's really pleasant to live in the midst of it. And then again, it's good to share because farm hermit and not too many folks see it, some of my
Totally.
family.
Well, it's inspiring for people to see, like, even just this simple fucking food bed you have. It's like, Jesus Christ, bro. Can you
Yeah,
hear
I
your
do that.
voice? Can you hear
What's that?
yourself talking? Can you hear yourself talking?
Not on this video, but I'm sure I'm yapping through all of them.
Yeah, well, it's just when I share, and I'm gonna start it over, I can go like this, and you can go share sound. And so now let me know if you hear your
Red
voice.
heirloom, purple heirloom
Yeah,
foliage, some
you can
Brussels
hear it.
sprouts, chard down the middle,
Dude.
several types of carrots.
Dude, like, I don't know why, but I'm just
potatoes,
impressed with how you've planted all your
so
fucking
many sliced
veggies, dude.
broccoli
That shit
shoots,
takes time. It takes
Yeah.
people passing down knowledge and learning and
truffles.
mistakes, and like everything
Well,
looks so fucking healthy, bro. Like, where are the bugs?
didn't really see many caterpillars, I suppose, but a lot of like the companion planting that seems to work out, and some of the native weeds and flowers left kind of on the fringe bring in predator types that on
So
a
they
permaculture.
bring in predators. Do you think that's done through this language of terpenes and terpenoids?
I do because that's an interesting thing you bring up, because what I see it as is like smell and color, but I'm sure it
Mm-hmm.
goes deeper. But like where I hear something along the lines of hummingbirds will go after a certain terpene. I've heard like vanillin, which actually translates to a nectar that is has an effect on them. So almost
Mm.
like they're after it, getting nourished, but they're also catching a buzz, kind of as a hummingbird. It seems like what they're saying. So then you have like these pretty colors and smells that attract the birds and insects in, but I think it must obviously go much deeper than just color or smell and tasting, where they're even going deeper to get an effect from it. So they're coming in heavy on stuff. Certain things I've noticed pull in. I believe a lot of the birds with the color and the smells actually tames down the insect level, and they take care of a lot of it.
Color and smell, frequency and vibration.
Yes, like those things that I'm interested in, and watching like a human but earthly kind of animal experiment going on and learning quite a lot with it. And it's
No,
handed
it's so
down.
cool.
My mom's a big organic farmer, gardener at home, so I grew up with these things, and she'd be proud. She is even so.
She's
It's
definitely proud, dude. Are you kidding me?
Yeah, her gardens look great. She's actually still doing it, loves it, lives right in the middle of it. So
All right, let me see if I can get this right. I'm just fucking everything up here. I got pretty high off that Puffco rip, I'm not gonna lie. And then it's funny because when I do this share screen, I don't know if you guys can see it. There's like an annotate button in the bottom left corner. It's a circular green button, and it's right where the play button is. So I can't physically push the play button, and it won't let me open. Oh, there we go. There we go. So there we go. All right. A volunteer sunflower in
yeah,
this
those
brassica bed.
I get
Nice
all
and
my
early.
volunteers. That whole sunflower ring I showed with the rainbows, I call that the ring of fire. Like
Yeah.
the project, and I get all the nursery sunnies mostly out of this bed. I
Ooh,
went in
Brussels
early.
sprouts from seed.
Yeah, I went in early on them. That's from Great Lakes, Greece, right there. Andy, that's been on.
Calibas, like Calibas
Yeah.
cabbage.
Yep. Yep. That's a
Jeez,
good.
look at the size of that Brussels sprout. What the hell?
It's
Four
almost five
feet.
feet tall. Yeah, it even got bigger. It's going. They're just still raging.
Dude, good
But
on you for growing food like this. This is an inspiration, man. I'm gonna fucking do some of this next year and get you to give me some advice.
I would happily help. It's not all just on showing here. So if there's anything I can do where I'm not super involved with messaging and stuff like that, you know, multi-messaging. But I'm happy to answer questions or help with any of this, with anyone with ideas, make it look beautiful. A
Dude,
lot
it's
of work
so
in the soil.
impressive.
Thank you. Thank you. It's a labor of love. And
Fucking
happily
rights,
so.
it's a labor of love, bro. What do you got? Potatoes?
Yeah, Lindsay put in some new potatoes. Those only planted like a month ago, and the whole bed's full now.
Jesus.
Both of the
Lindsay
beds are
tucking the
full.
potatoes in.
You know it. So good on
Lindsay's
her.
tucking potatoes into bed.
They tucked well. Well done.
They
And then
tuck well. Those are tomatoes.
those are that's my heirloom tomato bed. That was kind of, I'm yapping about it there, but it was an effort to go back to the conversation, the first hash church I did, where Sam and I talked, and Sam asked what kind of heirlooms I had going. So
Oh yeah. Sam loved
so
tomatoes, man.
I had to do it, and Lindsay was sweet, where she, you know, popped in the first 3 tomatoes were the pineapple bicolor, which was at the time the one that I answered as my favorite. But
Dude, thanks for
I'm
bringing
loving
Sam up, by the way. I feel like I never want to stop bringing Sam up or forgetting Sam. I think Sam would appreciate this next one more than anything. See if I can get it open. Let's see if I... there we go.
Strawberry Lane here on the left.
Strawberry Lane.
Strawberry smoothie beans.
Dude,
Nice and big.
the fuck, bro.
Yeah, they're
Some
like
husk over
8 or
here.
9 feet wide, 8 to 9, and they're 8 to 9 high.
It's the health, bro. It's the level of health.
I really doubled down on that this year. I watched 4 years of that Septoria crap around that's everywhere creeping, and kind of had it and just applied the reading and the info that I had been picking up, you know, here and there, the algorithm of info. And I can share a little that might even help, where I bumped up my microbes, basically, you know, local compost, use my own in the beginning and the end, and fill some gaps with really good local organic source compost. So I went heavy there, but I also added in the protein residual, enough of it with like the fish meal or even some animal manures in there as well. And mycorrhiza was actually something that I spent some money at the local organic store for some good source mycorrhiza, and I kicked up the population where it's not in nature and it's not receiving those, you know, that continuum. So after that, I used a lot of rot mulch that I bought from the neighbor right next door. So it's local and it had mushrooms popping. And anyway, it seemed like the microbial kick up with the protein for them, you know, enough, and the healthy top cover mulch seemed to really
with the height of the beds, you know, because that shit, that blight septoria, it's a bouncer. It bounces off the ground and it hits the leaves, and then it climbs up the fucking plant like the nightmare it fucking is. So really just how high you have it, and obviously the mulch is a big one too. Man, that shit is no joke, dude. It's a devastator.
No, it is. We got hit really hard. I actually have run strain trials and seen results, but I've only seen about 5% of my progeny. You know, I don't know, not a lot of plants, but say like, you know, 180 plants to 100 plants of females out of the population that show like a 5% or less type of resistance factor. And but with proper moves, I'm seeing multi strains go healthy. So
how about these African strains, African haze?
I'm so pumped about these. I wanted to share about, like, if you can see it in here and it's continuing to go there for more health kick out. And these equatorial strains, both Africans and even the Cuban African, all 4 have amazing genetic resistance to them, where these are 25 gals. They were choked up in 3s early with all the other plants showing these signs. Actually, here and there I have some resistant ones, but for the most part, they got some attack in the binding, the root binding through the, you know, and these are planted like a month ago, and I'm seeing more health. So I'm doing some breeding back just out of even that adaptive excuse me, resistance factor that's just unquestionable for this equatorial type sativa. It's really amazing. So.
Fuck yeah, dude. I gotta say, I love this kind of hash church, man. We got to get more people to bring in the tasty videos. Even like a video of you, Dr. Mark, in the fucking lab, hydrogenating THC. Like, how fucking cool would it be to watch you be able to do that after hearing you fucking talk about it for 10 fucking years?
It would be cool.
Kind of boring.
Everybody, what they're doing
It's
is
not
so cool.
boring.
No.
It's kind of boring, actually. He says that's fucking cool, man. No, it's cool. Trust me. It's boring to maybe you think, but people were like, damn,
Well,
look at this. That's Dr. Mark in the lab. He's got a lab coat on. He's a real scientist.
Yeah,
Oh,
but
yeah.
it sounds like you're next to an engine or a locomotive or something because there's this chuck, 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 chuck. The part shaker, Jeff. So yeah, it's like just this glorified shaker that's shaking away. So yeah, there's some background noise.
Labs are noisy, and also
Yeah.
they tend to be cluttered. So
Yeah.
it's a lot more effort than you expect to get good video in them. And I have
Yeah.
a lot of experience. I made a whole series of lab videos to teach organic chemistry labs.
Mhm.
And I had to do a lot of work cleaning up before I could even start. Because yeah, when you somehow you don't notice when you're taking the picture how much other distracting shit is in the photograph.
You need
'cause, like,
you
you're
need the
used to that.
15-year-old savant with the phone who just comes in and does all these weird and the next thing you know, you have the most epic video ever. There's barely any talking. He's gotten rid of all that bad sound, and it's just Jerry 73, like just fucking.
Yeah.
Yeah, you
Gotta
should have seen
think.
It works for some things.
Sasha Shulgin's lab was really super
I
cluttered.
seen
it's-
pictures of it. It was ridiculous.
It's super like there's just flasks with like residue on it that's totally like not labeled, even like with a page number or anything, just some orange residue at the bottom of a unlabeled flask. And I at one point I picked it up and I asked Paul, I'm like, so what do you think this is? And he goes, oh man, he goes, you should know what that, like he knew exactly whatever was in that flask, some orange residue on the bottom, some flask, probably some 2CB derivative or stuff like that. But I had a conversation with Jeff earlier this week, Marcus, where I reminisced how I was impacted. Yeah, there he is. Look at that lab. What a mess.
Yeah.
He would get shut down by the safety people at DuPont, that's for sure. I mean, can't have a messy lab like that.
Dude, I bet you the safety people at DuPont are just some of the worst fucking people ever. They're like, we got fired from the IRS. That's how bad we are.
Well, they're just people who can give PIs a hard time whenever they get a new piece of equipment or doing something new. But I was saying I was reminiscing with Jeff on how both Raphael Mechoulam and Sasha Shulgin's passing had this unanticipated impact on me. Like I was I wasn't really paying attention, and then like when Sasha died, I think in 2014, I think I I went out and visited his lab like later that year. I hooked up. I think I may have done that through Todd McCormick. I don't know like who introduced me to Paul Daly, but Paul was Sasha's assistant for his several last years while he was active in the laboratory. And yeah, we had a nice visit there. But what I was referring to is like when Meshulam died, in particular, it's totally had this like really interesting impact on me because I said to myself, I'm a chemist, just like Meshulam was, just like Shogun was. It's like, and now that they've gone, now that they're no longer, I mean, they like, like if I've read all of Meshulam's papers, all of them. Some of them I read multiple times, and the man after you read his scientific literature. And Jeff, I was listening before I got on. I was hearing you talk about the Whitesides lab. People, you ought to know that the guy that Jeff worked for at Harvard, George Whitesides, was just a huge pioneer. And Jeff is not overstating it. He did invent that type of photolithography, I believe, right? To make holographic images those types of things at high resolution with completely new materials and new techniques.
Yeah. On PDMS. Yeah.
Unbelievable what they did. And I know, just not to throw DuPont under the bus, but there was a lot of work done at DuPont around the process by which those holograms are made into films and images that can be printed in magazines and whatnot. So yeah, I mean, there's just this incredible body of literature, and I just recently commented on a LinkedIn thread this morning that was trying to give Dr. Guy, the guy who started GW Pharmaceuticals, all the credit for creating medical cannabis. And it's like, no, he didn't create medical cannabis. And in fact, Meshulam and his coworkers in Brazil showed decades earlier that CBD was effective at treating difficult to treat um, epilepsy. And so that was already known. And so Guy just exploited that. And certainly, like, I mean, GW would have never existed if it wouldn't have been for David, right? I mean,
No way.
he created the genetics that basically they
100%.
all exploited. And ATN, their breeder, who actually I believe does not have a sense of smell. Isn't that correct? That breeder, that guy that was the lead breeder at GW, ATN did not have like an active sense of smell. So certainly they weren't doing
That's
breeding of,
wild.
yeah, cannabis towards flavors. But
How
anyway, just to
fucking
get back,
insane is that?
yeah, to just get back to again, we're all standing on the shoulders of these giants, these huge people that came before us. And yeah, did Guy do some interesting stuff? He did. I mean, to run clinical trials on CBD, which is a not patentable composition, and getting a drug approved through FDA clinical trials is huge, a huge undertaking. But Meshulam showed him the way. Meshulam, he was standing clearly on Meshulam's shoulders when he did that. And just to talk about Sasha, Sasha often gets credited again for being like the father of ecstasy, but like they did structure activity relationship around the tryptamines and around the phenylethylamines that, stands up today as a solid body of scientific literature. They were exploring different substituents on these rings and how they were affecting the psychoactive effects. And yeah, I mean, it was huge. So I'll just stop by saying that
They use the
when
old
they passed,
bioassay.
Marcus, I was like, oh man, I'm a chemist and I'm still here and I'm still on Earth. So I have to start making more molecules, right? Make molecules. That's, make molecules, not war.
Well,
We
well,
should just
after shouting out all these powerful dudes, we got to shout out Dennis Gabor, right? He's the Hungarian British physicist who received the Nobel Prize in Physics in 1971 for the invention of holography.
holography. There you go.
So shout out to him. Where
Yeah.
would we be without all these people playing their parts and creating their rung in the ladder of human history? It's very interesting. It's very cool.
Well, right, but they needed lasers to create holography, and in order to create lasers, they had to have the right dyes. So everything is all kind of builds on one another, right? Like
Yes, like a
you
ladder.
don't get, yeah, you don't even get to like where Meshulam is. Like Meshulam recognized the ambiguity that existed in the literature about the delta 8 versus delta 9 isomers, and he figured out a way that he could use NMR, which was just
Yeah,
recently
it was
invented.
a recent development. Yeah,
Right.
people. One of the things that's hard to recognize now, yeah, is exactly that. That at the time that Meshulam used NMR to figure out the true structures of delta 9 THC and delta 8 THC, um, NMR was like using NMR that way was still fairly new. I mean, it wasn't unprecedented, but it was a relatively adventuresome thing, you know?
Well,
That guy really,
it wasn't until
that guy was a
Jack Roberts in the mid 50s and late 50s came along and figured out spin coupling, and they could
yeah.
figure out chemical shifts, and they could really use the phenomena of NMR was discovered right after World War II. They knew that basically the way that the atom exists is that there's a magnetic field, and if we pulse a magnetic field and when there's a resonance, there's going to be an absorption. So they
Yeah.
Stern and Gerlach had figured that out like in the 40s, right? But to apply it to where we use it, Jeff, in organic synthesis to elucidate the structures of organic molecules, what had confounded researchers back in the days of atoms was the lability of the delta 9 configuration. So the plant makes delta 9 THC acid, right? And what we know is that thermodynamically, if given the opportunity, delta 9 will convert to delta 8. And so when these guys were beating on these molecules back in the day, they were seeing isomerization and they couldn't figure it out. And then when this NMR thing came around,
Because
they're like,
NMR
no,
is
wait a
so
minute.
gentle.
It's so gentle. Well, and what
It's
it
just a
does is
magnetic field and radio frequency. There's like
it
nothing to
it
do.
it takes advantage of
Yeah.
the nuance of chemical structure itself, right? Which is that
Yeah.
a hydrogen on this end of the molecule is going to be different than the hydrogen on this end of the molecule. And it's like one of those things where it's like,
Yeah.
yeah,
And
so
it's the
Meshulam knew right
microscopic.
away.
Yeah. Yeah, it's the
Meshulam knew right away
microscopic
because
magnetic environment around it that basically
yeah,
makes it
what you see is right, Jeff, you know what the structure looks like. In delta 9, that
Mm.
hydrogen is pointed over the top of an aromatic ring. And when you do that, you get a process called deshielding. And that deshielding shifts the chemical shift of that hydrogen down like a ppm down from where the delta 8 one is. And so he knew this, and he knew that there was this ambiguity in the literature. And so that's the magic of his 1964 paper. People are like, oh, Meshulam was the first to isolate THC. No, that's not true. People had isolated THC before, but they were confounded again by the isomerization of delta 9
Yeah.
to delta 8. And the other
Because
thing is that
many of the analytical techniques of the time weren't that gentle, and a lot of times, yeah, people
well,
weren't
what
necessarily so careful with how keeping their molecules super cold all the time and protecting them from light.
absolutely. So before there was analytical techniques, what chemists used is they took natural compounds and made derivatives of them and degraded them into
Which often means,
known
yeah, cooking it
compounds, and
or
then they
yeah,
could
breaking
figure out the
something.
structure based on how the compound degraded.
Mhm.
And so actually, this is really cool, Jeff. So actually, the first people to isolate THC, they thought they isolated cannabinol, CBN, but actually it turns
Right.
out they isolated THC. And the way you know this is that if you look, so they vacuumed this, what they did is this was in, dude, this was in 1896, okay?
Mhm.
I mean, this is contemporary with with Edison's light bulb, okay? I mean, they were still doing candle lit chemistry in the laboratory at this time. This was 20 years before the discovery of the electron, okay? These fucking Brits took charas, which they got from India, brought it back to, I think, Cambridge, which is where they were in England, and they distilled it under a vacuum. And if you look at their distillations and you look at the temperatures at which they distill, and you run it through the nomograph. Remember the nomograph in the back of the Aldrich catalog, right? So the nomograph tells you what a measured boiling point should be based on the actual boiling point at a particular vacuum. And so when you look at those numbers, they didn't isolate CBN. They isolated THC back in the day. And the reason why I think they thought they isolated cannabinol is the only way they had to analyze things was by combustion analysis. And if you think about it, when you combust THC, what happens? A lot of it converts over to CBN, right? If it's in the presence of the air. So even back then, they were able to determine like the percent carbon and the percent hydrogen of an unknown composition that they extracted from a plant. And
Yeah,
so,
because
yeah,
it's like
wood,
a calorimetry experiment. So
kind of like that, right?
it's not combustion like burning it in a joint,
No,
right? Totally different.
no,
Like when you
no.
burn it in a joint, it doesn't make much CBN at all. But like
Yeah,
in that sort
no.
of a calorimetry experiment that's designed, I mean, you often pressurize it with oxygen, right? So like it's a very different condition than like, yeah.
Yeah. No, very, very, very different. But is that so? Actually, it turns out so. Wood, Spivey, and Easterfield in 1896 were the first to isolate THC, and I think we know that for sure just by looking at the boiling point and the pressure at which they distilled. But they still didn't know the structure. Like they were still trying to figure out. And then it took this guy, Robert Sidney Kahn. So he had four back-to-back papers in 1931, 32, 33, and 34. And in those papers, he figured out, again, mostly from degradation studies, what the structure of THC looked like. And so by the time Adams came along in the 40s, there was Adams and there was this guy, Todd Alexander, over in the UK, who were like the almost like if you look at Adams's papers, you'll see things drawn like Delta 8 and Delta 7. They didn't think about Delta 9 at all for some reason, but they had the framework of the structures down. So, yeah, it's often misrepresented that Meshulam was the first to isolate. He wasn't the first to isolate THC, he was the first one to correctly elucidate the structure and did it using NMR, like you said.
Well, shout out to Isidore Rabbi, I guess. Isn't he the guy that first demonstrated it? That's what Google's saying. It could be wrong. Another Nobel Prize connected to it in 1952 because after he observed independently that Felix Bloch from Stanford and Edward Mills Purcell from Harvard were jointly awarded the Nobel Prize in physics in 1952
For magnetic resonance.
for their foundational work on it. Absolutely.
Yep.
Right.
Yeah.
Hey, welcome, Colin. I hear your little guy broke something today. Hello, Colin. He probably stepped away. Colin was sending me text messages that his little guy was skateboarding today and broke, I think, his arm or his elbow or something. First break. Welcome to the club, buddy. Sorry to hear, but I'm 17 deep and it's doesn't get any easier. Just got to wait those 6 to 8 weeks and then you'll be healed.
Yeah,
Then
wait
you'll
till
be
they're
healed.
behind the wheel of a car, right? It's like
You know, so far mine have been really good behind the wheel of a car, I have to admit. Both my son and daughter just drive like not like me. I was a parent's nightmare when I drove my car when I was younger. First of all, my dad thought it was a good idea to get me this insane Nova hatchback 74 350 LT1 out of a Corvette with a Hirsch shifter and the fucking
man.
racing cam and like the car was psychotic. I think my dad was like, I'm getting this for myself more than me getting it for myself. And it was very, very, very fast. And for a 16-year-old boy to have such a thing is not super smart. I feel lucky that I didn't kill anyone, and I feel lucky that I didn't kill myself because I was truly a danger. I crashed so many cars, OG Brick. I think I did not crash as many as my father crashed because he apparently crashed quite a few. But I mean, I could go through all my accidents and doesn't even make any sense. I'm happy to be hopefully done that part of my life. I did write off a truck a couple years ago, drove it into the mountain trying to avoid a black bear on the highway. And the insurance guy was like, "Oh, you never try to avoid the animal. Always just drive right into it." And I was like, "What?" I said, "Did you just say that? Like, you want me to drive right into the?" He says, "Yes, it's much safer. Just drive into the animal. Don't swerve. You know, you could get into a terrible accident." I was like, "Wow, that's not gonna lie. I didn't really see that one coming. Just drive into it. Just fucking give it gas. You know, you want them to ricochet as high up as possible off the top of your vehicle."
Yeah, I'm
That's
just
what
saying as a parent, you worry about your kids, and there's
Oh
two
yeah,
phases of worry. Before they're behind the wheel and then after they're behind the wheel, right? It's
yeah.
just a completely different level of worry when you realize that you yourself, driving down the road can be plowed into by somebody on their cell phone or
Oh
asleep at the
yeah.
wheel or
Oh
it's the
yeah.
most dangerous thing we all do every day, get behind the wheel of a car.
Yep.
And it's like, I think a lot of us maybe take it for granted, but yeah, certainly, it's the thing that I think I worry about the most when I think about both of my kids, because, you know, my son lives in LA where traffic's super crazy and people are all over the place. They've both gotten into small fender benders, but, you know, you're always grateful when you get the news that, you know, they're fine and that they're, you know, that there's nothing
course.
wrong with them, that the car might be totaled or you got some damage to go fix at an auto shop. But yeah.
Yeah. No, I feel you. I've my eldest is traveling Europe right now. She's in Europe for the next month. And so I have that sort of like, you know, just kind of like, all right, you know, I got all my buddies in all the different countries that she's going to. I'm just kind of letting them know, like, hey, talked to Lorenzo the other day. I'm like, hey, my daughter's coming to Amsterdam. You know, you got to keep an eye out for her, look out for her. She'll be coming by the shop, Terps Army. Shout out to Lorenzo and Terps Army and the Terps Donuts. Fucking guy's a character, man. What a fucking character this guy is. Did a Legends with him a couple years ago in Barcelona. Hopefully, we end up doing another one here in the near future. Been too long. Really, the next Legends has to be in Amsterdam, and it has to be for Skunkman Sam. I think that's the real true story of that. Got to celebrate Sam. It still doesn't seem real that he's gone, and it's so wild to have the perspective of him being gone in all the conversations we're having, and I'm always like, oh, Sam would love this. Sam would love this. He'd love to just chime in, and yeah, it's what we all had in common. Time for a bowl. What are you guys all puffing on? I think I'm gonna hit some of this champagne kush. Little champagne kush going in the from the Fraser Valley Rosin Company. Let's do it. I was transplanting plants last night at like midnight. You ever just do some late night gardening, Brian?
Yes, I do.
Yeah, it was like super weird. Just in the middle, kind of late at night, I was like, I want to transplant this sort of cactus plant I have that my friends, their version is flowering right now. And I was like, man, I haven't taken good care of this plant. I've left it in a small pot. It's, you know, it's a weird cactus, but it's like flat leaves. It grows these flat leaves, but it's hard. And yeah, I'm looking forward to you know, well, I put it in a beautiful pot yesterday and ended up finding a bunch of plant stands, like metal plant stands. Probably like
that's a good idea.
yeah, so now I have a lot of my plants in my house on these little plant stands, and
I got to do the same
fuck,
thing.
dude, I love it.
I think, is that a Christmas cactus? I have a Christmas cactus, a little one that sounds like that. I have to.
It's similar to a Christmas cactus, but it's actually some rare type of exotic cactus that might.
Ooh.
So here's the story about the majority of my plants that I have. My buddy is he works in the city of Vancouver, and he parks his vehicle right next to this greenhouse. And he learned that the greenhouse is the greenhouse that propagates plants for the Blowout Conservatory. And every city has one of these conservatories that you can go to. So if you find out where the conservatory's greenhouse is, where they throw away all their green waste and they create all their new cuttings and propagate all their plants. He was walking by one day, and at the back of this building, where there's just a kind of a gate that opens and closes, there was like a mountain of green waste. And he didn't really, the first time he said he didn't really look, but he was like, I ended up going back another time because I was like, well, I want to see what this is and what's going on here. And I'll show you the picture he sent me. This was just out in behind the Blowout Conservatory in Vancouver. And this is like a good idea for anyone that wants to gain access to some pretty awesome plants. These are succulents that they were throwing away. They're like the size of a small plate, not a big plate, but definitely like 4 to 5 inch succulents. They're spectacularly beautiful, like just in great shape. And so he was getting all sorts of plants. He just walked by at the end of his shift and be like, oh shit, look at this, look at that. Like he got 100-year-old jade plant that I'm actually in the middle of trading him for right now. This thing is like 4.5 feet long, and it bends over like a crazy fucking bonsai tree. It is so spectacular, dude. I can't even tell you. It'd probably sell for like $3,000 or something. Like it is a high value plant. So I love this shit, dude. Absolutely love it. Oops, it's sticky as fuck. Oh, well, I guess I better do that when it's warmer. Trying to get the banger out of the universal heater, but I put it in there and then turned it off so it cooled. So it like tightened it up a little bit. So I'm like, I'm smart enough to know, especially because this is Hash's bong and I don't want to break his bong either. I'm smart enough to take care. Are you back yet, Colin? Did we lose you? Are you caring for your young child who broke their limb today as we're talking about the dangers of like children getting hurt? I will say the day that my daughter arrived in London, there was like millions of people just like hit the street and started protesting shit. And I was like, fuck. Like all the countries that my daughter could visit in the entire world, it was the only one that like took to the streets and protest with like hundreds of thousands or millions of, like, it was the most insane amount of people. I was glad for her to be brave enough to tell me, we're not going into the city, Dad. We're hanging out like on the outskirts. It's like, yeah, hang out on the outskirts, puff some J's, have a glass of wine, enjoy some cheese, be safe. Trinity, I'm talking to you in case you're watching. You puffing on, Dr. Mark? What am I puffing on?
This is just some old headband. And it kind of dried out a little bit, but
Yeah.
still tasty. You know, like it was interesting when Jeff was talking to you earlier. Like some of these things make a crust, and like when I first opened the jar, it didn't smell, but as soon as
And
I
then you
broke
poke the
below the
crust.
this little bouquet of gas comes out. You know.
Dude, soon as I broke through the crust.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So the crust is a good thing, you know.
Well, it's, I think it's one of the things of why traditional hash has a nostalgia box, and it's why it's special. And it's when I was in Quebec recently, I got to do a test of all these hashes that we were going to test that were in the market. It's too bad you didn't come up for it, actually. You would have enjoyed it, Dr. Mark. But also testing the hashes that we made, which I keep showing because I just love them. And it's, oh my God, just the sound of that, like taking this ball out of it's just such an incredible ball of hash. Can't tell. It's like speak highly enough about it. It is insane. Really great bouquet. But yeah, there's something to be said for the aging of the outside of the hash and sort of the release of all those monoterps. And you create this very specific sort of structure on the outside. But then also like these balls that I've been sharing, I'm going to cut each and every one of these open on like a really high 4K slow motion video. Once I've aged them for some months, I want to age them for 3, 6, 9 months. And then I'm going to do some really nice videos of cutting into them with a knife and just like watching that fresh hash be so perfectly preserved inside that skin. And so what I was mentioning was that we did a sensory science batch with the team over in Quebec. We ended up smoking all these hashes, and I haven't smoked a lot of hash in decades. What I mostly do is vape, like gentle vaporization of like high-end six-star full melt of dry sift or wet wash or live hash rosin. And so the hash is different. It's warmer, it's hot, it's smoke. It's very, very different. But I will say that I really enjoyed being stoned versus being high, because I'm constantly high. It's all I do is I get high. I get high, I get high, I get high. But let me tell you something, all you snobs out there that I unwittingly helped facilitate by being the ultra nerd and climbing to like, I only smoke 90 micron heads that are, baked in the sun of Alaska. Anyway, get off your high horse every once in a while and smoke something that may not be as good as you think. The things that I was judging were things that I could have been enjoying. And now I got to get myself another hash pipe. I haven't figured out my hash pipe scenario yet. I've actually been puffing out of one of my hash kits, which is just a ceramic bowl and a ceramic tip in a paper straw. And I've been smoking hash with this little bad boy, and it has actually been quite enjoyable. But I want to get myself a nice little hash pipe, nice little small little hash pipe. It's nice. I'm enjoying it. And when you have all this hash like sitting right next to you, let me tell you, like the other thing about hash is getting it out and wanting to touch it and hold it and smell it. This one has an incredible terpenoline smell. It's Cuban Lynx is the cultivar, and it's just also you can see the sheen that comes from the plastic, so you can see the quality of the hash. This is Hash Church after all, people. This is Hash Church, and hash is goddamn well going to represent at Hash Church. Side note, I want to shout out 6 Star Printing. All right, if you haven't heard of these guys, they're on Instagram. He's got all these funny little cards that he does for his these are just little promotions that he does. This is my favorite one. Simple, to the point, 6 star right there. This one also was nice, kind of a little bit of a rosin press thing going on there. But he went, I get a lot of companies, hey, can we make you slaps? Can we make you stickers? This guy went out on a limb and was like, dude, I'd love to make you some stickers and no charge. And I'm definitely going to be ordering some. He did these ones for the Bubble Man brand. You can't really tell, but sorry about my gardening fingers. You guys are just going to have to deal with it. Fucking mud, bitches. Anyway, yeah, it's got this like, the B is like bumpy. It's like it's off the picture, and then it's not quite holographic like Ori's holograms, but still very cool. And then he did my wizard, the wizard that Max over at Mothership did for me, and I was so impressed with these, man. Like, holy shit, did he do a good job on these stickers? Nylon stickers, also mildly holographic with the with some shimmering in there, and also everything is a texture. You can see that the writing is all bumpy and textured. So is the wizard. You can see the hidden 73 micron in the smoke up here by the hat, right? Got to hide the Easter eggs in there. You got the Bubble Man with the ice cubes and the trichomes. Fuck yeah. Anyway, shout out to 6 Star Printing. Go give those guys some support. I will say this much about them. The quality of their work is spectacular. And in a world where everyone claims they have the best, these are probably the best stickers I've seen so far. These little nylon stickers, really nice, super quality through and through. Vinyl stickers are the best, absolutely. So hopefully I'll be somewhere in the near future. I'm just too lazy to start offering to mail these out to people, but if I bump into you, I've definitely got some stickers for you, and hopefully the rest of my brand partners will get on making some orders with Mr. 6 Star, because god damn it, he does good work. This is actually one of my favorite ones of his for his printing. I thought this was a classy sticker. I was like, dude, that's just fucking proper. 6 Star Printing with the ice cream cone on the side. Little sticker. That would make a nice shirt. Who's gonna say that's not gonna make a nice shirt right there? Colin! Jesus Christ, man.
Dude.
Jesus Christ, dude.
A little 6-year-old breaking his arm,
Oh, you got to really try when you're 6, because that shit bends. Like, you really have to fucking give yourself a whack at 6 years old to break your arm.
He would dropped in. So my son skateboards. So those that don't know, he's 6, and he was dropping in, and he learned to drop in extremely well, and he just went for it, and he tried to go across the whole park and went down this like 6-foot like bank, and just like at the end he got the death wobbles, and he took his foot off the board and he extended his arm out and just boom. So he was having fun, but it when I got to him, I was like, that's a little sideways there. So I just was like, we're gonna get in the car and we're gonna go see the doctor. And it was like, what's wrong? My arm hurts, and you know what I mean? And then we were in the hospital in the ER, and they were really great. He's like, I don't want to stop skateboarding. I was like, that's great. You don't have to. This is just part of life. You have to
Hey,
4
you can
weeks.
skate with a cast.
Totally. Well, not really, but when he gets stuff like that.
Did you know I broke my collarbone just 13 months ago in the skate park in Whistler on my son's birthday?
That's incredible. Yeah, so I yeah, I feel for y'all. I mean, I've broken stuff too skating, so it's tough, man, but it's fresh for him, so it's like all new. So he's, and it's funny because he was like running across the house and he like fell and I was like, dude, you just can't run inside, like it's pretty funny.
Awesome. Little
But yeah,
boys, man. Little boys. They really do have their own. When people are like, oh, little boys are only little boys because you're programming them to be that way. It's like you clearly have never had a little boy and a little girl. Because
100.
I'll tell you, man, when both Tosh and Tanner were little, I could not drive. Well, I could not. It was Shar, not me. I couldn't drive by a construction site without him making a
Some
stop and
yeah,
stare at the trucks and stuff. Like it was fucking
yeah.
insane. I don't know where the hell I did with my bank.
But yeah, no, it was a really interesting time for him. But all good stuff, man. It's cool to see him get into stuff and mess around and find out, It's good. Little scientist, It's just exploring.
That's awesome, dude. He suits his cast.
Yeah, no, it's funny. I sent you that image. His sister wanted to sign it first, so but yeah, no, it's good. It's good. It's good. It's good stuff, I was like, as a parent, you're like, oh shit. But you just get through it, It's good. But I'm good, man. Things are great. Beautiful day here on the East Coast. Excited for some new flavors that we're washing and pressing, and I'm excited for my personal garden too, because I just have so much great flavors going right now, just for myself. Like, just really excited for. So it's that time of year where everything's just starting to kind of show its quality and potential. So I think I'm talking about personal outdoor stuff for those that are wondering. Um, it's
Yeah.
fun.
We showed Brian's earlier.
Oh, nice,
Just
great.
yeah, just like flower gardens and cannabis gardens and vegetable gardens, and
Oh, yeah.
that was totally inspirational, man.
Yeah, and yeah, it's awesome. It's always inspirational to go to Brian's property. He's got a great slice of heaven up there. So
Just
always
fucking full sky rainbows.
totally, yeah. On
Nice
the
to see.
It remind What's that?
on the property, it's just beautiful there. It's like he's on this nice perch that overlooks, and it's like this just kind of look out. It's a great piece of property you got, man.
Have
It's
to
really
come out and thank you, Colin. You've been here quite a few times. Have to come see it here this year if you can. I know you're busy, but I was saying to Marcus, I doubled down this year on the flowers and the vegetables, eating out of the gardens every day for a couple months or more. And yeah, looks great. Love to show you
yeah.
the yard.
If
Check
a
some
week,
flavors together.
yeah.
Yeah,
If there's a weekend open, I could come up on a Saturday. I'd love to do that and
absolutely. It's
spend
been a
some
while.
time.
It'd be good to catch
Yeah,
up. Yep. It's been
yeah,
a minute.
yeah.
That'd be great. What
Yeah.
kind of flavors you got going in your Percy garden?
Um, so I got original diesel, which is just
Yeah.
really gnarly. It's just so good.
Yeah.
I've got Super Boof, this one called Orange Fire that we kind of bred, which is a Calio outcross to New York City garlic.
Nice.
Got the the sour diesel as well. Got a couple of those, and then Blue Zushi grapes and cream, I think. Yeah, I don't want to miss say that. I was gonna say grape gas, but it's grapes and cream, and then Grape Canyon Skittles actually is one that we're doing. And then Counterculture gave us seeds like a couple years ago at a harvest party in California, and I just didn't even think about them, and then I found them just like going through stuff, and I saw this one pack labeled Z, and another one labeled OZKB times Sherb times Z. So I popped a bunch of those, and we found like in each lot, we found like 2 or 3 that were, one in the Z is like absolutely insane, and I cloned it. So we've got that on the docket, and the rest I'm just kind of like, I don't know if I'll clone the rest. It's still kind of assessing, but there's one that's like, you have to clone this now. Just checks all the boxes with structure and like the flavor notes off of it, and then the resin itself is so tacky and
Yeah.
and just sandy that you can see it's going to be a really good one to keep. So
Yeah.
excited to kind of pressure test it and see what you can do with it in terms of like what can you make with it and how well does it translate, you know?
Yeah.
So that's trying to think, is there anything else I'm missing? I did have a hella jelly plant, but I gave it to a friend of mine. Just was like, I wasn't super over the moon about that, but over the planet, like just the varietal. So I just was like, let's just give it to him to see, and maybe I'll go
Yeah.
take a look, see if it's worth something. But usually I use the outdoor season to just like pop things I'm interested in or try stuff that I haven't tried in a long time. Like the original diesel just reminded me why it's so important. Like it's just acrid amazing. And just like resin is so good on it. So
Did you see that one come off kind of early? Would you say like a couple weeks earlier than other things maybe, or not so much?
surprisingly, yeah, but it's not like the Grape Canyon Skittles is like almost done.
Oh wow.
Like,
Well,
yeah,
not that early, but
yeah, I'm kind of like surprised to be honest, because you know when you run it in a commercial setting, it's usually like 10 weeks, you know, like right
yeah,
now looking like it's gonna finish faster than that. So
that's
um
great.
yeah, so but the original diesel, yeah, it does it forms its structure and its cola structure, and you know it's in flower, it looks like it's really far along, but it really goes
Yeah,
like 12 weeks.
absolutely.
So
Yeah,
so really, just when you think it's like done, it just keeps pushing out, you know, and pushing out. So I'm excited to see that one finish. I love that profile. I've kind of
same.
lived for, you know, as you know, for so long. So it's nice to like throw that back in the mix and have a bunch of it to play with. But I actually am really excited to get that into like commercial production so I can offer it to like everyone
Sure.
market, because it's a really unique one. Very different than the sours that we have. It's, you know, it's similar, but it's just different, you know?
I think it's closely related to that headband cut it seems like that I came into here with, and I'm not sure if it's the same, but from what I'm hearing and stuff and gathering, so I've heard Day Wrecker, Original Diesel, kind of both thrown out at it at this cut. Yep. So this
Yeah.
one here, anything that headband leans heavy on, and even in the genetic, back crossing here, a few of them, the G band I'm working with, even included to the GMO gas mask included to the headband. They all pop off early, like substantially 2 to 3 weeks. Not early, so they're like mid flower, mid to later term right now. But I'd say a couple weeks earlier than other stuff, where even for what would much different than what they do inside, um,
Yeah.
outside in terms of that line there, kind of,
Yeah, we also popped a bunch of headband Skittles crosses that Skunk Tech had given me.
uh,
And there's some very good stuff in there that that I'm seeing. I just haven't had a chance to like lock it and clone it yet, because I don't know. There's a lot of great stuff in there. He's a great breeder too. I mean, he's just got good selection. Really nice guy too. Big shout out to Skunk Tech. So, you know. It's funny, Marcus, like those seeds that I sent you of Sam's, those are actually his. And he had them sent to me. For those that don't know, maybe he's not psyched on me saying this, but he sent it to me and then I sent them to him, and during the process he's like, why don't you keep some for yourself? And I kept some. But I didn't really keep much. I kept like a few. So you know, he's got a bunch of Sam stock that most likely, I think he's working through right now. Um, so it's cool to see him, you know, have that kind of stable of just color, just call it that, to be able to go into some of the older stuff and maybe bring some of the modern stuff together with it. Hopefully we'll see some stuff in there. I'll have to bug him and ask him about what he's doing with it. But yeah, no, this outdoor season for me is more like play and exploratory and see what happens, rather than, when you're with a license and commercial, you're like, I got to grow this and this and this and that. And, so it's been cool. It's been a good season, and the season's been amazing. Like the late fall here has been pretty dry, so
Yeah.
it's
It
nice to
looks
see
like
that.
it's still going too. We're looking at like mid to high 70s up here. Looks like next week,
Yeah.
and into the 50s. So a little even warmer kick, which will get
Yeah.
the sugars going and everything once again, and the swelling and the density, and everything kind of like back into a little more heat and dry. It's
Yeah.
been too dry, but definitely too dry. We're in a main super drought for here at this
Yeah.
point still.
We're
Yep.
we're out on the East Coast for sure. Slight drought, but it is a drought. You're calling it right. I
Yeah.
was thinking about it the other day because I was just like thinking to myself how dry it's been, and I just use water and amended
Yeah.
bed,
Mhm.
so
Yeah, if you
it's
give them enough and keep the water to it, they obviously perform very
yeah,
well. Enough life, enough root run, and enough
yep,
water, conscious volume of water on the daily, pretty much, or every other.
yeah, yeah,
Huge.
100%. I've been mixing in a bunch of back guano and just fish by meal and all kinds of stuff that's local. So it's when we mended everything, it was really interesting to kind of use some of the local stuff that I had not, like crab meal and crab or lobster shells and stuff for calcium and things like that. That was really new for myself to use and get access to. So it was cool. It's good to use that stuff. I mean, you're like literally in the heart of lobster land, right? So you might find even more luck up there with some of this.
I use a mix, so it's from Fedco up here, which is a great company. Yep, even for like all New England, East Coast, or really great selection types of their seeds, organic stamp, hard, picky. But I use their fish meal, which is what is like a crab, shrimp,
Yep.
fish by fish product all together. So there's definitely that component. Not sure lobster, but several definitely shrimp and crab in on it with the fish. And it
Yeah.
works. That stuff is amazing when it's right, and it's pretty fresh. It hasn't sat around. You can see the difference between like a bulk product shipped around the country versus a local fish meal
Yep.
product. It's like it's almost moist, but it's not rotten or anything. But it's like super pungent, almost a little sticky or dense with it, and it works like overnight. As part of it has the time release, but it's almost the next day or two you're seeing the results. They love it. So the
Yeah,
microbes love it.
we're experimenting with adding um some amended Cal Mag iron now, like right in flower. And also trichoderma and a couple other things that we're adding in to help with mold resistance. And we're seeing a lot of success, man. I mean, given it's
Cool.
been high, but we do still have these wet mornings, so
Oh, yeah.
you know what I mean? We get that wet dew and then that sun cast over it, right? Which causes the PM and all the other stuff. I haven't seen any PM, which is really interesting. So I'll have to keep an eye on it, knock on wood. But it seems like there's some, there's a correlation between mold, botrytis, gray mold, PM with trichoderma. And I think, I know people use root shield and things like that have trichoderma and other things like that. But I really encourage others to try to look at. There's a white paper that I looked at that was really about PM, and it talked about using root shield and using trichoderma, and it talked about day 14, day 21, day 36, and so on and so forth, and they didn't have any mold. any gray mold issues, which is really interesting to me.
Was
So
that root shield and trichoderma, or one or the other? Or
root shield has trichoderma in it, right?
yes,
So and other constituents as well. So I think, we're testing. So like I've used Dragonfly Earth Medicines, not Fat Flowers. It's the Natural Mystic, which has an incredible panel. If you actually look at that, it's sort of props
that's
to
awesome.
Cannabis for being so ahead of their themselves on that, because they have pretty much a very comparable thing to what Trichoderma has developed. I mean, not Trichoderma, what Root Shield's developed. Sorry. And I think that I'm using them in two different beds, and I'm trying to see like it in the same plant, same clones, in two different beds to see what comes of it. So more to come on that, but I'm trying to do some little controls to try to see what
Are you
comes of
doing? Are you soil drenching or top dressing in, or
soil drenching. Yeah,
into
and because Natural Mystic can be a foliar feed, but I decided that a foliar feed for the intention that I have might not be the best use case. So I did, instead of 1 tablespoon per gallon, I did 2 tablespoons, and then did like a light mix and then just dressed it on top,
Yep.
just to see how that would react, and the plants seem to really respond well to that. That's a really great product that I kind of overlooked. Like I didn't really use Natural Mystic all that much. Like I used it a few times, but I thought fat flowers and the other stuff that they have was really more important. But yeah, it's funny how it all kind of comes back full circle a little bit when you're looking at it from a different perspective. Because I'm just looking at it from gray mold. Like I don't want to get to the end of the season and be like, oh my God, I can't harvest this. So because that's typically on the East Coast what happens, right? You get to this like last 3 weeks,
Yeah.
2 weeks, and you're like, no, I see it happening, and like
Then it
goes.
liquefies.
No,
Yeah.
it's true. It doesn't matter if you're undercover or out, typically.
know.
Sometimes better under, sometimes not.
Oh.
It's
Yeah.
the
I'll tell you one
heavyweight.
thing, growing cannabis outdoors, whether on the West Coast, the East Coast, or smack dab in the center of the country, will quickly teach you
Yeah,
about what it's like to be a farmer.
Yeah.
You
it's
will
true.
know in a
I
very
think it was
short time.
third week every time in NorCal for that decade out there up in the mountains. It was like third week of September. You could almost dial it in. It would be September, right on the equinox, like September 20th, maybe through the first week of October, pretty much September 20th up to October. And you had this drenching, start of the season, 3 inch of rain. And then the thing is the plants weren't used to any moisture. This is kind of a thing I've noticed where out here, at least through the season, you have the familiarity of the plant with whatever cellular, defenses or adaptation it has with the rain and the structure of the rain. And it's on, a repeat. So the plants kind of get intelligent to it, work with it. And out there, they're like, whether outside or in, there's no dew because it's like perfect. The whole summer's perfect, no clouds, sun the whole time. And then that third week of September comes in and you get this crusher drencher and everything's just like not structured, can't hold up if it's not perfect. And then it's just rot city after because it always brightened right up into 95 degrees again and hot and beautiful, for like the a stint of time. But things just got so heavily saturated and crushed on that it was like it made it, I found, almost harder out there with some of that, the
I
plants
believe
weren't.
I'm trying to find this white paper link that I had sent out to a friend of mine who was going through this, and I was like, look, there is best practices here.
When I was up on the mountain up there was this thing going around with an old timer, like an old head on the hill, up on the hill there in southern Humboldt, Alder Point area. And he was drenching his plants top to bottom. It made perfect sense kind of coming from out here. It clicked like how they get adapted to the water on the East Coast. We're used to the rains on our plants. But this guy was actually, I guess, was like heavy watering from early stages on the whole zone and the plants top to bottom. and claimed that he was able to resist the late season attack of that, the tidal wave that came in that crushed everybody. I mean, it was so bad, not to go on and on, but it was like, I don't know what fraction of the market, of that year that it crushed on every time it happened. So
Imagine that's the year that you're going to start your first outdoor crop, right? That's the year versus the people who somehow hit the lottery and the year they do it, everything's perfect. It's the driest year in 20 years. It goes till the end of October, start of November. It's just like, woo. And one group is like, whoa, this growing pot is hard. And the other's like, dude, growing pot, man, this is a breeze.
Yeah, the easy part in a way. But no.
Well, sometimes you get lucky. I remember friends of mine, the first time they ever put plants out, they just crushed it, like beyond crushed, and they never crushed it again that good.
So this is, I was doing some research and I came across this article. And it was really, it's always inspiring to see these kind of controlled studies. And it talks about, the investigation of timing of the B. cinera spore, if I'm saying that correctly for everyone, infected during the day 49 flower period FP, and how environmental conditions host genotypical influence disease development. Artificial spore inoculations made at 14, 21, or day 28 of FP resulted in the highest disease development compared to inoculations made at 7 or 35 days. So what they're talking about is when they added this, root shield into the actual medium. So I find this incredibly interesting because environment changes a lot of the protocols, I think, here and when you would do this and how. So it's just really interesting that, root shield on these specific days for this specific study resulted in the results that they got. And they talk, there's Regalia Max here and a couple other products that there's Lifeguard, and they kind of pitted all these things against each other. And it seems like Root Shield HC really was the best use, for products, it was the best use. So I don't know if anyone else is going through this type of stuff or does likes to do this, but it's a great thing to kind of look into. Especially if you're growing up.
It's so much work to grow for a whole season and then have like just rot come and eat your plants.
Dude, even if you're growing inside, it happens. I mean, I've seen it in indoor. I've seen it everywhere. And this is not specific to outdoor either, but I do think that we're seeing some familiar names, Samarke Punja, on this paper. There's a lot here. So those that are looking to get, to look more into this is a great paper to kind of read and study. It's something I'm doing in practice right now, and I'm seeing some results. So yeah. The one thing I think that's interesting about this is that they tried so many different products, and it was really Root Shield that, was the one that they found was most effective. And then the pathogen inoculation, also super interesting, just how the final spore concentration, what was the range of spores in the ml. There's a lot of things here from a cultivation point of view, those that are really looking to be dialed in. There's some enlightenment here to really help you guys to, to solve these types of problems that will come about. So
yeah, it's interesting. The more you know, right?
Yeah,
as much as you can. Still,
look at
it's just a depressor.
I mean,
look at those pictures.
Like you work so hard and all of a sudden you
Oh.
garden one day and you're like, yeah, that's so good.
That's
Yeah.
like beyond no good. It's like cut that top off.
Yeah, and then they talk about how you can't really just cut it off.
You can't,
You know how we
but
were
you
talking,
do. But you
do
do.
keep letting it go, and the environment just gets worse and worse.
Fuck. Well, yeah, because you're creating more and more vectors.
Look at this. This is great. Look at this. Artificial inoculant cannabis inflorescence OG with a spore suppression. Um, you know, the stigmatic hairs appear dry due to the preparation procedure used, scanning electron micrograph with the beef scenario spores deposited on inflorescent tissues, scanning electron micrograph. It's just really detailed and you know, it's amazing that in 2026, 2025, 26, you know, going into 26, we're able to get this macro. It's awesome. Like
That's
we just
crazy.
don't have this years ago, you know.
Yeah, well, if you stuck it under the electron scan microscope, you would have it years ago. I remember in 95, fucking Yoop Dumas was taking the most insane pictures of trichomes that were just like, you couldn't. It opened my mind to what could be. I had seen it under a loop, but they didn't look the same under a loop as they looked blown up as a big picture.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, you can see the
Bud
negative.
rot. Oof.
Mark, this is probably interesting to you because you know, looking at the negative control versus everything else, like you can see the data is like overwhelming. It's like, wow. It's like
Overwhelming, all right.
crazy. So find it fascinating. The infection stages, just incredible stuff.
Why don't you show us some videos of like your grow or something that's like looks beautiful instead of rotten and dying.
I know. Well, this is important, you know. We
No,
don't
no,
have
well, but they have the name of the thing, and they even have the website up there that it's on.
yes.
And
Yeah.
I think it is a good idea. We'll put the link up as well in the description of the video, so you can go and
Yeah.
look into it and check it out because it definitely is interesting. But no, I just also want to see because someone said your outdoor grow on IG was looking awesome. It's like, man, you gotta throw a video up of that.
Yeah, I took some video the other day or the other morning. I'll see if I can throw
Yeah,
it
you
in
did.
chat. Let me see if I can find it on my phone. Let me see here. I'm sure it's
Dude,
right here.
I went and visited Remo the other like a couple weeks ago, and that was fucking awesome, dude. That guy is just
Dying. Your commentary was the funniest thing. I loved it so much. I was like, dude, this is awesome. You're like, I don't know. You're like, you looked at the plan. You said something so ridiculous. You're like, it's I can't remember the word you used, but I was just like dying when you.
I like how the video starts. I said, "Hey Remo, how many plants you got in here?" And he just goes, "No
Like
idea."
psychotic was the word. Yes, I was just
Oh
like, I
yeah,
thought.
psychotic. It was psychotic.
But that's, honestly, that's the joy of being so about the plant and just popping as many seeds as you can. And he legitimately is like, I don't know how many plants I have here.
Yeah.
And I truly believe him when he says that. Like, and I think that's amazing. You know, like how incredible is that to be like, I don't know, I popped all these seeds and I don't have any count on them. That's one of the most incredible things, I think. And so honest and just from the heart kind of stuff, you know. What a joy.
Yeah,
You know?
totally. Dude's awesome.
Yeah,
Dude,
incredible. Incredible. But
yeah. And all his shit looked amazing. Like, I haven't used his food, but I will say that he was growing all of his vegetables. He had corn in 5-gallon buckets that were like 10 feet tall with like big corn. All his peppers were like gigantic. He had plants that were only like maybe 2 feet tall, but had like 6 or 4 or 5 giant peppers hanging off them. Like it almost looked ridiculous. I was
it
like,
to
dude,
it was ridiculous. Like I honestly having you walk through that greenhouse was like like reminded me in like the late 90s where I just had this property where I just like ignite with just all of these plants and be like, I actually don't even know how many I started, but they're all rocking and doing fine, you know, and but it's amazing. I think that he is one of the he's such a gem, man. Like he really is. I found some I'm gonna
Well, I've
some
been going to his place for, I don't know, 20 or 25 plus years. And those indoor grows that he had where the plants were just like monsters in the, 40 or 50-gallon buckets that he would plant them in the indoor room. I'd never seen anything like that shit before. Like that was on another level. I seen some shit before that, but not quite like that. And what was crazy was how beautiful the resin was on all these big, beefy, like giant buds, which just were, it was so like kind of the 80s, like, look at my big buds. But his big buds were covered in incredible resin. And that was the thing that always got me with Ramo. When I took his material and made hash out of it, it was spectacular hash, like 6-star, full melt, dripping down the pipe um, hash. Not to mention making hash with Ramo in his house with his whole family around, with his like grow that we're using the is a total and complete trip in its own right. Uh, awesome people, seriously awesome people.
his wife is amazing. I remember we went to dinner on the in Toronto, like 2016 or something. We were going around the what is that called? The spaceship thing that in Toronto that we had dinner there.
Oh yeah, what was that called? It was like oh, the Space Needle? No. The
Yeah,
fuck is that? The CN Tower.
something like that.
Yeah. Space Needle Seattle, isn't it? It's the same idea.
Maybe.
Toronto might be substantially taller. I think it's the CN Tower. It's very tall. I stood on the outside of it. Were you there for that, Colin?
No, but I remember you telling me about it, and you're like, it was absolute madness. And you're like, it was like,
Well, because they took us outside and I was with Ramo and his whole crew, and they strapped us to this rope and we all we leaned back, leaning off of the CN Tower. It was totally insane. I'm not sure what made us do it. And then Ramo and I, it was like sneaking. Like they had the craziest security because their liability of going up that high and dropping anything off the top of that. So that you went through like getting searched about 3 or 4 times as you first you had to put on this one piece unit that zipped up and had no pockets whatsoever, and you couldn't access pockets. At that point in time, I had taken the vape pen that Ramo and I were sneaking up to get some dabs out of up my wrist. And I don't know how, but I somehow got it up there, or he got it up there, or someone got it up there. I can't even remember at this point in time, but I do remember hitting it up there. And it was quite an experience. This is
sorry
your
about.
grow, Colin?
Yeah. So this is I think this is the booth that we're growing. It's
Oh,
such
the
an
booth.
I I've grown this a few times, but there's something about it this time that's just very acrid.
It looks super blown out to me with light.
Well, it's just the sunlight then.
Yeah, but you sent me one that doesn't look like that. I thought maybe I'm
I
wrong.
I sent you a couple. Here, let me see. Let me
Yeah,
see.
maybe the one. No, I think the one you just showed, it looked funny for me. Maybe it was just me.
Maybe
Because it was
uh
blown out. It was definitely not like here. Let me see if I can share mine. Is this the
yeah,
one you just shared?
it is, yeah. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. So they don't look the same at all. The one I saw was like super like saturated white bright light in the background, like that turned all the way up to
Let's
10.
open this one up too. This one is the companion plants that we did with yeah, it does look kind of blown out though, right? Does that look blown out to you?
Yes, it's doing it again. Totally. Does anyone else see that?
That I can't remember the name of that particular companion plant, but it's a beneficial insect plant. We plant those seeds with everything. I mean, just it's like a good host for beneficial mites. I even in outdoors, I know people think I'm nuts. I do sachets. I just don't want to spray. I'd
Yeah,
rather
he's
just
blown out.
that's crazy.
Yeah, it's
Uh,
light soaked as fucked. Yeah, there's something wrong.
that's weird. Sorry, everybody.
That's okay. I had problems trying to share Brian's for quite a bit. I might be able to play that one that you were just playing. I think this is, yeah, this is the one that you were just playing, and I can play it unsaturated. I don't know why it's doing that though. That is weird. Never seen that on Zoom before. This is the one you were playing, right?
Yeah, and then here, try this. This is the original diesel. It so to Brian's point, sometimes original diesel, like I went around the garden, I was like, this isn't the right cut. And I was like, went to each plant, I was like, why does this one smell like more diesel-y than more sour? And then I went to another one, I was like, this one smells more sour. And I think it's your olfactory gets kind of twisted sometimes when you're going through gardens.
Right.
Um, you know, but but this one I just sent you, that one, that is super far along, but it's still got a long way to go. Like it very long way to go. It's gonna fill out a lot more. Um, but the resin on it's really starting to show itself. It's really cool. So early. But
You know, when you said it's gonna fill out, I
yeah.
pictured it as being like a Grateful Dead's like statement, like we're gonna fill out like bop, 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 bop. Oh shit, we're filling out.
Boom boom. Yes, we are. The fill zone, man. It's funny, I have a surfboard from like that was given from like one of my older brother's friends. That has the fill zone sticker on the top, like the old fill zone sticker. I love it. I cherish that a lot. I'm sure Mark remembers those stickers. Um,
Oh
but
yeah,
you know,
like the Twilight Zone.
yeah, the Twilight Zone sticker. Yeah, exactly. Um, it's a cool sticker, but it's when I followed Fish a lot, and I we kind of adapted this idea of like tray side or like tray, or I'm going to be on page side, or I'm going to be on you know Gordon's side or whatever, and we kind of tried to borrow that, but I don't think it sits as well as Phil's zone.
Yeah, yeah. The Fill Zone was a a place where you could actually feel it in your body cavity every time he hit a note, right?
Yeah.
Like you would feel it. And not it wasn't necessarily loud neither, right? I mean, it's just like maybe I don't know, it was the frequency of the notes or the way he was playing it. But he really did invent, the way to make bass guitar happen. I guess I don't know. I mean, the Beatles were around before them, but I don't think nobody played really lead bass. Like when you hear Phil, especially like if you're listening to The Eyes of the World from uh uh this would have been on August 13th, 1975 in the Great American Music Hall, right? Very famous show, one from the vault, right? They previewed all of their um, Blues for Allah material, right? And so that Eyes of the World, and many songs, or just many versions of that song, I guess, Phil would play at the after the third verse, right? There was no more verses. Phil would play kind of like a bass lead, right? And that was kind of like unheard of back in the day, right? Bass player doesn't play a lead, right? Bass player is just holding down the pocket, right, with the bass drum, right, and the drummer. So really, I think going out and playing like the way he did, um, I think he was influenced a lot by Jack Cassidy from Jefferson Airplane, right? Because I think
Mm.
Jack played like that a lot.
And
But
LSD.
kind of like later on the way like Jaco Pastorius and Stanley Jordan, so many other players now, right? I mean, the bass guitar kind of like matured during the evolution of rock and roll, right? During like the 40s and the 50s. I think it was like invented for like electrified music, right? Because
Yeah.
in acoustic music, right? You have the bass fiddle, right? Like in bluegrass, right? The guy with the big thing that looks like a cello, only it's much bigger, right? And he's laying down the groove along with the chunking of the rhythm, either of the mandolin and the banjo and everything, but like two guitar rock and roll, kind of like the Beatles, right? So like rhythm and lead with a bass and a drum kit. Right? Even the drum kit was kind of like a whole new phenomena, right? Like the the drum kit came out of like the big band era, right? And Buddy Rich and
Big prominent of it.
Krupa, who again, when you go back and you listen to that like Benny Goodman type of big band era music, and you hear the drummer, right? He's up on his rack a lot, right? Colin, like he's boom, 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 boom. Like there's like a lot of that. And yeah, I mean the Grateful Dead 2 drummer thing when Mickey joined really became a different type of rhythm machine.
Yeah.
And Garcia used to make fun of it because he said it sounded like a washing machine at times. It's just like this thing that kind of went round and around and around. But yeah,
Yeah.
after Mickey joined the band and they started going primal in like 68 and 69, Live Dead era, before they really went Americana with, American Beauty and Working Man's Dead, it was just a whole new genre of music. And
Yep.
listen to Lil Phil play like on the Live Dead album, right? The double album. Listen to that other one. Oh my God, he's just a fucking monster
I
in
can hear
that.
it.
Literally my
Yeah,
favorite.
totally.
Yeah.
And who played the bass like that?
No,
Until
Phil did.
but here's the
nobody
thing.
played the bass like that.
Well, nobody in pop culture though. Here we have to just call it as it is though. Jazz informed his playing, right? And all the greats that came before him, he was very influenced off. And think about how the walking bass is, right? When you play jazz, you're walking with the bass and you're doing all this stuff and intonation and you're playing phrases, right? You're playing these phrases that in rock music didn't really exist. And I think what Phil did so well was he's able to take these different disciplines and ideologies and kind of bring them front and center and then express them really naturally. And he really, if you look at his playing, it's very jazz oriented. Um, and the other thing I want to say is like, in 1983, I don't think people understand this, that Phil was the first person to take MIDI and attach it to his bass in rock and use bass notes that were at sub frequency levels. So you could, like Mark, you just said it, you could actually feel that, right? And it was due to his ability to use sonic frequencies that he was really interested in from people like Herbie Hancock and the Headhunters and Miles Davis and Teo Macías and all these people that were producers that were using electronics to accentuate their musicality. So
Well, on that note, I want to welcome Stephen Philpott because I'm not sure he wanted to come in. That conversation might be a little bit back, so we might have to pull this
yeah,
conversation back from Phil and go back to. I'm not sure what we were talking about. If it was Phil Lesh and the Grateful Dead, then please, Stephen, go, step right up to the plate. If it was something else, how's it going, dude?
Yeah, man, I was just rolling up listening to the good conversation, man. What's up,
What's up?
everybody? Yo, what's up,
Hey,
Hey, what's
Jeff?
up,
Steven, what's
man?
up,
It's
man?
Steven. Hey,
Bro,
man, I haven't
good
seen you
seeing
in
you, man.
forever.
Hey, man, I took this year to lock in. I'm good though. I'm back.
Locked in. All right, that sounds the best. Tell us a little bit about it, man.
Oh, nothing, man. I was jumping in because I saw in the chat. I heard Colin talking about electron microscopy. That's my jam. Let me see if I can I share? Can I share my screen?
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Let me see.
Oh, can I share this hash?
Oh yeah. Can I
Yes.
push it through the screen for me a little bit and put it in my banger?
There we go.
My God, dude.
So these were a bunch of the plants that I was working on for my master's. So what I did for my master's thesis was I compared the same plant, but I looked at the top
Mhm.
halfway from the like apical meristem, and then whatever the lowest flowering node was, where I could actually collect enough to sample. So I needed like a gram at least. Um,
Yep.
and we took this plant, and what we did with it was, oh, I gotta actually share a different screen. Uh, there we go.
There we
So
go.
these are my freaky images. Um, I'm pretty sure this is a leaf because you see mostly like non-glandular trichomes. Um, and then you see a couple glandular trichomes that like their heads are busted. Sometimes that can come from handling, drying, uh,
Maybe
whatever
bulbous.
process. Say again.
Maybe bulbous heads. They're also just growing out of the leaf.
Yeah, those are tiny ones. The good ones, however, though, are the ones that look like this. So this is probably one of my like best images from my master's thesis. This is one individual calyx. I think it was like halfway. You can see the real small glandular trichomes. But if you look at those big heads, especially if you look at the blue arrow, you can actually see the disc in the head of the trichome where they're secreting these different metabolites. So this is my favorite picture because you got a non-glandular trichome with the green arrow, you got glandular trichome with the blue one, and then you even have a pistil in the background where that red arrow is pointing. So yeah, what we did was we compared the trichome density, which is like just how many trichomes, and we compared the CBD concentration because we weren't allowed to measure THC. And we looked at the difference between the same plant. So how much does the trichome coverage vary across one plant? The answer is vastly, significantly. Like to take one sample of a plant and then say it represents the whole plant. Just after doing this work, like I think it's the craziest thing. I equate it to picking one apple off a tree and saying that that apple represents the entire apple tree, which is not the case just from looking in the store. Um,
I
so
had
yeah.
that same realization when I started doing macro photography that, you could look in 10 different places and see 10 different sort of, I could always find amber, cloudy, and clear heads on almost any plant, unless it had gone literally like a month over its time. Then it would all turn amber. Like there were plants that were so old. I remember leaving a guy's house one time and after doing macro photography of all these Congos, and he had this tiny little plant next to the door as I was walking out, and it had flowered and it was only about 4 inches tall. And I was like, oh, can I photograph that? And that plant ended up, it was a sweet skunk bud. And I ended up getting this beautiful leaf, similar to what you got going on there, not quite as close, with just like covered. And the way I shot it, because it was a long bract, I managed to snap the depth of field so most of it looked clear. As I don't do stacked photography, I just do single shots. And yeah, it ended up being a centerfold in Cannabis Culture magazine. It's a really special image. It really made me as a photographer to not always try to pick what I think is the best, because sometimes that can hinder. If I'm just open to my mind and my thoughts, which I was that day when we walked by. So, what are we looking at here?
So this is like a zoomed out image. So imagine that you walked up to a bud and you essentially just clipped off one flower,
Mhm.
one individual flower. So in order to take those crazy close-up pictures, This is actually, if you see this kind of vertical piece of metal over to the left, that's what clamps the bud down in order for you to put it in the machine. So that is a couple flowers all pinched under. And then we zoom in on one. So you can see the actual flower itself. You can see the trichomes that are covering it. And then you can see obviously the style and the stigma running from left to right across the screen. And it really,
What's
I
the
mean, it's literally what you just said. It is an art because these images are extremely difficult to take. Also, I don't use solvents in my images. So these are all, Marcus would love this. These are all frozen. There's no like chemical fixatives. So because it's frozen, as soon as
Oh,
you put it in the
it's
electron
cryo
microscope,
EM. What's the
yeah,
temperature?
uh, liquid nitrogen, so
Okay,
cold. Yeah.
great.
But
minus
you take
80
your
degrees
you
Celsius?
take your sample and you hook it to like a
Yeah,
stub
that
that's
would
made out of
help.
brass, and you drop it straight in a bowl of liquid nitrogen. And then you're essentially on a countdown clock. You got to put it in the machine and image it because the machine is so powerful, it's blasting the image. It's literally blasting it to a pulp. And you have to record as fast as possible and try to get the perfect image. Because by the time you pull your sample out, it's been blasted to the
Yeah, it'll get
electron
totally
microscope.
cooked. This is 15 kV, man. There's nothing to fuck with. It's an electron beam.
Yeah, and how they do it, it's a piece of like tungsten steel, and they electrocute the tungsten on both sides, and it shoots a fucking pure beam, like a
It's a
cosmic
jet
beam,
of electrons. Yeah.
yeah, into the sample, and this is what comes out. So there's no light. This isn't a light microscope. This is all in a pitch black vacuum, and they blast it with pure electrons, and yeah, it gives us an image.
Dude,
So the
imagine the
water that's
experience that
present.
cannabis is having in this world. Cannabis is the luckiest plant because I don't think all the plants get these cool experiences.
So the water that's present is obviously frozen. Doesn't that somehow like disrupt the cell structure if you
That's why we
freeze?
freeze it to, that's why we use liquid nitrogen, and that's why you will see. I'll be honest, I've tripped out looking at it under the microscope because I can actually see thawing of the individual cells,
Yep.
and I know when my time is up. When it's frozen,
Yep.
it's fine. The longer it
Yeah.
stays under that beam, and there's no zoom in an electron microscope, you actually increase the intensity of the beam. So the
But
closer I get to the
when you
trichomes, I
freeze
see it start thawing.
when you freeze water and you make ice crystals, doesn't that somehow disrupt the integrity of the plant tissue? I would think it does the same thing with
If
fish. It
the
does the
flash
same thing with meat.
freezing, it does some damage, and definitely the after as it thaws, it does more damage. But the flash freezing, uh, if it's fast enough, the water doesn't have much time to reorganize into crystals.
Yeah, I mean, you could just look at this picture.
So
Like
the things
there's
keep pretty
zero
much their
damage.
structure. It's not necessarily perfect, but like things can pretty much keep their structure if you flash freeze it. The key is freezing it really fast. It's got to be like a really rapid, like sudden process.
Right. And it's the same thing with Bird's Eye's invention of frozen food, right? So he found that if he did flash freezing of things like meat, chicken, fish, and all that kind of
Yes.
stuff, right?
Yeah,
That
slow
that when
motion
he
freezing gives it more time to grow crystals and disrupt.
right. So there's something about the flash freezing process that's
So these
able to
samples
keep
are
the
going from fresh, straight off of a plant to dipped in liquid nitrogen. And they stay in that liquid nitrogen until they are the same temperature as the liquid nitrogen. And like Jeff just said, it's literally a process. To your point, Mark, we destroy the image. Like when you use this, you can't use the sample afterwards. It's destroyed.
yeah.
But for that time that it's at that super low temperature, I mean, if you look at this image I'm sharing there, that's some of the most best preserved images that you'll get on that level. And that's because there's no cellular distortion, there's no warping. This would be like if we got in Miss Frizzle's little school bus and we like shrunk down really small. This is probably one of the best images you're going to see of a cannabis plant, at least on this level, because most people in the plant world, we use fixatives. We use chemicals to dehydrate it and get rid of all the water. When you dehydrate cells, what do? You warp them so they're not in their natural state. This is literally Marcus's whole like wheelhouse. As soon as you soak them in
Yeah.
solvents, you change their natural structure. by freezing it like this is the most natural image you'll see of a plant before it's dried, cured, harvested, or anything.
Yeah, and these cryo SEMs are like some of the most advanced instruments for electron microscopy. This is really like the most modern cutting edge.
Yeah. Yeah, and like in photography, shoot everything in cold environments, like even the hash, right? So to be able to get the structural integrity, but those of you guys that are like looking at flash freezing and freezing as like a part of a process to make hash, do not do that because it's too cold for the VOCs. It may keep the structural integrity of all of the compounds, but the important things we're chasing are quickly released. So just keep that in mind. We've done a lot of studies and tests, and it's insane, because in early days we believed like, oh, maybe cryo is like the way to get things out of fields and into production faster. And it's like, no. But there are some interesting cryo things to be done with processing. I'm not going to say that, but just be careful. I don't want anyone assuming that they're going to go cryo their whole harvest out
Yeah,
there.
thank you for that, Colin. And this is also like to Mark's point, this is what happens when you do cryo wrong. Look at the integrity of the heads of all these trichomes.
That's what I'm talking about, brother. Like, because it's, there's a threshold, between cold and too cold and disruptive, right? And but you need the cold to get the image, right? Let's just call that out. Otherwise, you have a bunch of mush, right? So, um, yeah,
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
I love
I feel like it's just worth pointing out because like I've been in research group. I never did that much of this electron microscopy myself. But I was in research groups with people who did a lot and focused on, one guy was imaging carbon nanotubes. I mean, freaking hard. It's a lot smaller than that, so it means it's even more intensity, right?
Okay.
And but like, I've seen with people use it for all other kinds of nanostructures. The thing that always struck me was how much fucking time and work it was to get one good image. So like for Steven's best images, like you need to understand how hard that guy has worked. It looks like it might look to you like he just snapped a photograph real quick one time, but you have to try a lot of times and you got to figure out all the little tricks and it's one of those really hard things to do. I've definitely seen that.
Yeah, and I think it's to be said that photography in general, even if you're not using this method, you have to worry about lighting and point perspective and how color theory and light refraction changes everything in the minute way, right? And that's another aspect of it. And that's why this method is so important. And it takes away light, right? It takes it all away. Like the difficulty of lighting something is gone, right? Which is really incredible because otherwise you'd probably spend a day just trying to flag this thing to light it in a really particular way, and then you would lose it because the sample would be gone, right? You wouldn't be able to shoot it. So it's really to what Jeff was saying, it's really important to note the amount of detail orientation that has to go into creating a sample prep like that is insane. And then actually getting an image that's useful, kudos to you, bud. It's awesome.
I'm actually glad that you said the art theory behind it.
Yeah.
Because I essentially had to learn about the origin of photography on a light level. Like I had to learn, I was using the light spectrum to grow my plants, but then I had to learn the light spectrum from like a image standpoint.
Yep.
And it was really interesting just hearing a lot of that stuff. Like I thought I would just put the sample on a stub, put it in the machine and hit capture.
Yep.
And I can't, to Jeff's point, I blew through probably 20,000 samples learning how to get images that good. Um, and a lot of it was like freezing the sample, putting it in, and just leaving the electron beam on it and just watching what the microscope does to the sample. Once you know how the microscope affects the sample, then you know I got about 5 minutes when I put that sample in the machine and try to take a picture. And that's pretty high stakes when you're like doing it for data capture. You've grown this plant for months, and now you got 5 minutes to take a picture before you destroy it.
It's kind of like your curing process. You spend all this time and you're going to go into a cure. You know how many times I've seen commercially just like big batches gone, like ruined. The same ideology, you know? You know, it's interesting because to relate to you, I came at it from the opposite point of view. I studied photography and really understood, the idea of photosynthesis and why images were created and how long and exposure and all this other stuff. And then I applied that to plant science. It was really so it's fascinating for me to hear your journey come from the opposite end of the spectrum, right? But end up in a very similar place, really studying these techniques, because they're, sure it's different, but I don't know. It's more the more I learn, the more I realize that we're more closely related to each other than not, you know. But
Absolutely. If you knew how many people popped up once I started talking about my research, so they started seeing differences between trichome density. And again, to Marcus's point, people were like, "Hey, which cultivar in your study had the highest trichome density? What was the ratio of bulbous to sessile stalked trichomes?" Now people
under
are trying to look at it from a monetary standpoint of, hey, which one can we get more out of? So for my research, I actually anonymized the cultivars. I wouldn't do that where I'm just like, hey, cultivar A had this really high density. Cultivar D had, it's how I grew it. If you understand genetic expression, I grew mine in a greenhouse in the Midwest during the winter with high pressure sodium light bulbs. Like that's a very specific type of environment that I chose to grow in. And I didn't want to put the cultivars names out there and then the public starts saying, what are they doing? Research suggests that this cultivar, no, we're not doing that.
Yeah,
Cultivar
yeah.
A versus cultivar B. That's all people know.
Wow, that's great. What a great point, actually. Yeah.
I
Super
got creepy
important.
phone calls, man. Like I tell people, my first job in the industry, like I worked for an MSO for 6 months. And when you know how flies land on your food and they start doing the hand rub. When people saw my research, I just started feeling that like hand rub of people like,
Yeah.
"Ooh, how can we use this to monetize it?" And I was like, "Nah, guys, we're not doing that."
We're not jumping straight into this. There's a different, yeah. People a lot of times don't understand. They think that there's a business thing immediately to do with some research result, but a lot of times actually you're going to need to develop the research a lot before you're at the business idea. I've watched people try to start up companies, I think, like before their idea was fully baked and before their research was really fully baked, and it doesn't pan out well. Like you said, people draw wrong conclusions because they haven't done enough study to confirm what came from the cultivar versus your cultivation, right?
or they'll
Not
get people
enough.
and they'll say that they've learned enough from them and they can continue doing it themselves. And that's the biggest mistake that most companies make. You keep the people on that have been doing it and know how to do it. Can't recreate decades of experience.
No, exactly. Oh my goodness. I woke up to a little bit of rain, which was well received. We're happy to have it, but it didn't rain really at all here, like all summer and barely at all in the spring. So it's nice to have that smell, that wonderful smell. And
Petrichor.
yeah, I love it. When you haven't had it in a long time, and then you're like, whoa, it's just like
Yeah, we need
raining out
rain
here.
too. Lake Champlain is down to about 93 feet, which is really, really low. And it's not like they could just get more water from Canada. You think if you look on the map that there's actually a connection between the St. Lawrence Seaway and Lake Champlain, but I think it's like disconnected by locks. I think you need to go through locks to get there. So like our lake is, yeah, we don't get water from the St. Lawrence. So I think like when we don't get a lot of rain, the rivers that feed the lake just don't put enough water down there. So yeah, the lake is super low. Anyway, we need rain too.
93 feet is super low.
Been on the lake. I've been on
Yeah, I
the
guess it's
before.
93 feet like above sea level. I guess that where we're at, that's low. They like to have it more like around 97 or 98 because this is actually the dry season, right? We're not going to get a lot of precipitation between now and when the snow flies. And when if the lake freezes up being this low too, it screws up a lot of habitats in the lake for all kinds of things. It's difficult
What do
to
you guys
do
think of
ice.
this Freaky Dreams?
Dude, it looks amazing. I have a bunch of these seeds. I've never popped them, and I kind of next year I'm gonna do a whole freak show thing where I want to pop them. Dude, I got to give a shout out to 710 Labs for putting out work like this. Chocolate Oranges 25. Yo, if you guys are in LA, this is phenomenal. Like this is like great Jack Terps, hazy terps that there's people out there that hate Jack Terps. I'm sorry for you, but this is fantastic work. Nice work, boys. Like, wow.
Dude, look how crazy these leaves look on this plant. Freak Show is so trippy.
So rad. I love it. There's another, remember Duckfoot? Remember Wally Duck from an Overgrow?
Oh yeah. Yeah, it's the first one I ever saw. It's very different. This one's like quite beautiful.
Yeah, no, it's really cool. I wonder what the resin is like on that. Has anyone ever grown it here?
Well, let's ask Hillbilly Herb, who sent me that video.
Very terpenoline, but
How is the resin?
which I'm good with, but some people don't
Well,
like.
I've asked for the flavor profile. I've asked, he says this is a Freak Show crossed with Dream Lotus F3.
Hmm.
So there it is.
Looks
Don't know
like a
what the
fucking-
Have you all seen the female plants that exhibit male anatomy but still have flowers?
Like the
hermaphrodite.
pearls.
Yeah, but they're essentially mostly stem, and then there's individual flowers. There's no buds. There's no like group of budding.
yeah, those are the
Like
pearls.
the girls.
Yeah, we imaged a bunch of those just to look at the trichome coverage, and they
Yeah.
were actually frosted completely.
Oh,
Yeah.
I bet.
We saw a
Where's
sample
the-
of that last year. They had a couple of samples in the field at the USDA field trials there up in Geneva. So we had a researcher. Um, that's all she's doing is researching that particular genetic. It has no pistils. It's exhibiting the male and female, but it's a unique freak out in nature that, I mean, we looked at it, and you got to understand, it's me, Rob, Mojave, Ali, all of us surrounding this researcher, and she's just batting it out. She's just focusing on that type of genetics. So they are interested in that at Cornell.
Yeah.
Hmm.
I've always wondered if we could get to a place. I was talking with a really smart biologist that's in his 80s or really late 70s or last weekend in California, and he was asking me why hasn't someone bred in the markers for the plant to be able to grab its own nitrogen from the air. And I was just like, there's just so many things that I don't think many people have talked about, but it seems like there's a lot of different ways to go about looking at genomic research. But the pearls like this reminds me of Dr. Greenspoon's, that varietal.
That
I've
reminds me of the blackjack haze that I did back in the day. Had the black domina with the,
dude,
on the haze.
I haven't heard that name in a while.
Yeah, that was a while ago, right around
I was
2K.
just shocked at the coverage on these things. Like I didn't think they were going to be covered in trichomes, but
Loaded.
Where did you get the seeds from?
so this was actually part of the cultivars I used for my research were USDA compliant floral hemp cultivars. So we were doing a program to see how hot they go in different climates. So they sent the same seeds essentially to 5 different Midwestern states, and people
Okay.
grew them in different environments to see what type of expressions we could get naturally. Um, and the crazy thing is, this isn't a greenhouse. Like this wasn't in a super, like it wasn't outside anywhere. These were seeds that they gave us. And this was just one plant that just
What-
showed up like this.
What temperatures did the greenhouse get to? Did it get to 100 degrees or 80 degrees, 90 degrees?
So this was one of the hottest summers in Chicago, and our AC actually went out when it was like 110. And this was one of the only plants that actually survived that 110-degree like heat wave.
Huh.
Because
Hell
I mean, I
yeah,
have
it
an image
did.
of the full harvest of this thing. I mean, you can see these pictures like this is
Hanging up.
very abnormal.
I
Well,
bet it would have looked a lot different if it were cooler.
We were looking at plants just like this like last week with
Yeah.
Budgelero. And
Yeah.
this is what they specialize in, dude. Like they
Haze.
probably what are these seeds that you got? Like where are these particular, like is this a African haze or a Colombian or a, do you know what the genetic lineage of the particular seeds you cracked here are?
No, no, I don't remember which cultivar this one was. I think it may be because this is a floral hemp. It's a cherry wine.
Cherry
Um,
wine. Yeah.
yeah, it's one of the cherry wine lineages. But again, I grew 4 plants like this, and this was the only one that expressed itself with this type of anatomy. So it was really interesting. And I mean, even the yield, I think I have maybe some better pictures here. Um, but I mean, it grew
So
a lot of little individual buds that weren't clustered.
So in one hand, yes, it's abnormal in this setting, right? But on the other hand, this is all things we've seen before, right? So I think it's really interesting that this is such a this is an outlier in of its own right. I'd love to see this like the actually take a sample and sequence it so we can see if there's any what relatability there is and if there's anything else in the other samples that have been submitted that are share this same,
Yeah, so I took advantage of this weird anatomy because a lot of the samples I tried to take, I wanted to get rid of as much stem as possible and just have floral material. So because of these, it was super easy to just literally pick an individual flower at a time. Um, so we did like a random study where we compared, if you see this pile on the left, we removed every individual flower. And then over here to the right, this is like a more realistic sample where you still have some flowers, still have some stalk and stuff. Um, and there's about a 15% difference in metabolite concentration, obviously, because you're going to have more biomass that's not trichome dense. But you can see behind me, like we harvested the whole thing and did concentration analysis.
did it express like what was the chemical makeup? Like, did you see more, THCA or what did you see in terms of the cannabinoid makeup? And then what was the smell like? Was it more hazy or was it more musky, skunky? Like what kind of
It was
description?
fruity, super, super fruity. The students who worked in the greenhouse, they compared it to like Fruit Loops.
Huh,
Um, I would say like a berry kind of
very
more
cool.
fruit than floral. But we had a lot of like there was Hawaiian haze and we had a lot of other things. This was totally different than everything else. I don't remember what the exact metabolite concentration was. It was lower than the other ones, um, but it was
Mm,
still like it was still double digits.
mm, fun. Really cool.
Good old
You-
novelty. Who doesn't love it? I mean, back in the day, if I would have seen that, I would have been like, "Ah, get rid of it, kill it, destroy it." But nowadays it's like, no, let's check it out. That Mojave and Rob,
Mhm.
Caleb.
Caleb.
Nice.
You want to talk about a fun group to hang out with? That fucking motley crew of fucking stoners right there. Jeez. Mojave, Rob, Ali, Caleb, and us last year. Let me tell you, it was epic. She was going over this plant. This is her research. She's actually doing full-on research on this type of plant to understand the mutation, why it does what it does, why it has no pistils. So, it's good to know that, research is on that, and looking at these sort of freaks as you've showed us, because, even the freak, it grows different, each time depending on, how it's done. And it's something we don't really see in the commercial market. I definitely have tried it personally. It's definitely a nice genetic, but it would definitely be, you could see why it's not commercially viable.
So are these things that they're studying at Cornell, are they seed lots that are consistently producing this trait, or is this just something like they're growing a field and all of a sudden this trait shows up and they're studying it? Is it
Yeah, these are donated genetics. So last year they grew 517 different ascensions from 33 different countries. And
okay?
yes, they had a homogeneous field where they grew everything raw dogged. No staking, no anything. And they did this at 6 different places around the United States. They did it in Oregon, Washington, Alabama, LSU, and Geneva, New York, and California. And the homogeneous one, they just are trying to see what's acclimate or what will acclimate in this part of the United States. So to see, they grew males and females, 3 males of each ascension too, to see what it's going to react like. And so we got to see what it was like reacting in this sun and, Geneva, New York. So they had that field. I guess it seems to be where they took those genetic freaks that they had and put them all in this one particular field. And each student, I guess, seems to be assigned the type of genetic anomaly that it is. I don't know if it's random, if they select what plant they're going to study, but what we know is they just growing from donated genetics currently to see what is viable, what isn't viable. They've got, type 1s, type 2s, type 3s. They found this one type 2 that was, an old school genetic from upstate New York that grows straight, which is perfect for rope making. And it was found after they moved a barn and these plants just shot the fuck up. And they're like, what? And they basically send scientists over. They did longitude, latitude where these genetics are found. And then there are breeding trials. They didn't breed all 517. They had breed boxes set aside on a different part of, they're growing over 30 different acres up in New York. So, there's different areas where, we got to see full fields of the 2 bear genetics that are growing, which are not susceptible to white powdery mildew, hemp powdery mildew, and septoria, because a lot of what we saw in upstate New York was overridden with septoria. Much worse than, what I've seen in other states, but it was definitely something they had. But, Bayer, which is Monsanto, already had 2 fields of genetics, just 2, out there, and they looked great. I mean, honestly. But at the same time, they had all different field trials of also different types of hemp. They had density trials. Um, as well as you saw with that woman there, she's just standing around, and each day she's just annotating and logging that genetic. So it'd be great if Mojave or Rob were here, because they questioned that poor girl for a solid 45 minutes, because we love anomalies, right? We love freaks. We've seen more than enough of your average cannabis, right? So that one, literally, as you can see, we just all naturally drew in on it because of our natural curiosities about cannabis, because we kill and cull these types of genetics. We don't really see them. And so that was also the fascinating thing about seeing 517 different ascensions growing out in a field, some with their own weight, because none of them are staked or anything, had completely folded out into a star because of just so much weight in the colas that they had completely fallen over. Whereas other genetics had completely grown and died and dehydrated on the vine there, right there in the sun, which of course were probably your northern genetics and things like that. So they're just looking at every type of cannabis to see what potentially can do well. They're probably looking for genetic markers as well to figure out, what are these illnesses and are not. They're going to be studying those 2 bear genetics that are not susceptible to white powdery mildew, hemp powdery mildew, and septoria, because, there was definite light and day difference in that. But the septoria doesn't seem to do as bad. I mean, it leaves the leaf spotting. I'm not sure what it does to the flowers itself. Has anybody done any research to see what that septoria does to
It's Satan.
it's Satan. Ah, yes. Nobody wants Satan in their garden.
Fucking Satan, dude. Blight. Think
Is
of
that
it. They call it blight.
Bayer, the chemical company Bayer?
Yes.
Yes, Bayer, who bought Monsanto, who bought Blackwater. Yes, that Bayer.
Wow.
Yes.
The
Yes. That's
aspirin people.
Yeah.
It goes deep down the rabbit hole.
So
Yeah. Careful how far you want to jump. You can get really pulled under by the toes.
So, okay, so let's just ask some questions here. So like, all right, so you went to this field and they just showed up with like these genetics and they're like, yo, look, plant these. And they happen just to be the best performing plants in the whole lot. And apparently, is that what you're alluding to?
No. I'm not saying that. It's just for a full field of hemp, it looked great. It looked healthy. They harvested it in front of us. They brought out, they had a hemp field day. So on another day, they actually brought out harvesters to show the machinery. And what
Got
the
it.
frustration of Rob and Mojave was, all we're doing is reinventing the wheel again. It was a bunch of, as Git would say, Rob's wife, it was a bunch of boys with toys. They didn't look to our history. There's a lot of decorticators and a lot of harvesting equipment that's already been existed. And all they're trying to do is reinvent the wheel all over again. And that's what turned a lot of us off, is like, guys, you're missing swaths of history and you're trying to reinvent the wheel. We're still 30 years behind. And they showed us, and our frustration is that we're still 30 years behind, and they're playing with toys as their way of getting larger companies to come in. Because, yes, large companies made these things. But to just give you an example, they had a full 18-wheeler that had a decorticator on it. Well, I've got and seen of patents from the 1910s and 20s that have 4x8 decorticators that you can pull behind a fucking tractor, right? So to make these obnoxious new things that they think are there, it just shows us how far we still have to go. And these field trials, they continue this year. They're happening literally right now. We didn't make that trip this year, just due to a lot of logistics and reality issues, but they're continuing to grow more out of the donations. They're breeding to see what's strong there in the sun. But the same thing is happening at UC Davis. Same thing's happening at Alabama, LSU, up in Oregon and Washington. There's 6 different research facilities, because not only doing that, they're going to start breeding hemp varietals so that they're actually acclimated genetics, so that you can buy acclimated genetics. And why does that matter as a farmer? Well, if you don't know anything about it, if you take a bunch of non-acclimated genetics and you put them in the field, you're going to get a whole bunch of uneven and random growth, which is a huge problem in farming. What farmers want is universal, ready-to-go genetics that look and act the same. And that's what the University of Cornell and all of them are working on doing, is looking at the genetics, seeing what's there, seeing what the genetic markers are, seeing what the diseases are regionally, right? Because we haven't been growing hemp industrially to see what these pests and diseases are. Those are recent situations. So they're doing that as well. So eventually, they have a USDA catalog, so you can order genetics currently that are 0.03%, and they will send them to you. They have a full catalog of things that are available, of those hemp varieties, CBD varieties. Those exist. We also saw that ground creeper, which was a plant that doesn't seem to have the lignin to stand, but it gives enough to cause a ground creeping so that you could actually grow that cannabis genetic in between crops, just as a suppressant for weeds, because it covers it as a ground cover. So sorry to be so long-winded there, but there's a lot to that. Stephen, you had your hand up.
I was literally supporting what you're saying from somebody who was like my PhD was co-advised by Cornell through NC State, and we grew 1 million fiber plants per acre, 300,000 floral plants, across the entire state of North Carolina.
Now, were
And
they
to his,
specific genetics or random genetics? How did, or were these, cultivated clones from seeds? What were the genetic material you were playing with?
yeah, so these were seeds, to your point, that we got directly from the companies who wanted to donate them to the cultivar trials. So we get gallon bags of different seeds, and we would split them up and grow them at 5 different locations in the state. So we grow them not too far from the ocean, where they're probably going to get exposed to some brackish waters. We grow them in the mountains where they're high altitude, and then we grow them in like the orange clay that's across most of the state. And we would look at how they grew differently in different environments. Surprisingly, the ones that grew in orange clay that were exposed to drought grew the strongest. I thought that was like if I had a hypothesis, that would have been the opposite of what I said. I would have said orange clay sucks for these plants, and I would have said that the drought was going to kill them. But from what we had, like one natural rain every 30 days, all our plants were organic. We didn't use any fertilizers, although there were fertilizer trials. And to Etienne's point, that's why I brought it up. The fertilizer trials are where a lot of the big companies get in. So we would do hairy fetch clover, use that as a cover crop. That clover sequesters a ton of nitrogen out of the air. That then goes straight into the ground, and we would plant straight over that clover, let the cannabis shade out the clover until it kills it, and it just feeds off that nitrogen. Right next to that, we would have a plot where we're doing the exact opposite, where some company came in and paid to have their fertilizer analyzed compared to that organic trial. What I can tell you is that the organic trials actually beat the fertilizer in pretty much every trial we had, because of the amount of fertilizer you have to pump into the ground to compare to what the clover can pull out of the air naturally, just free nitrogen. So that's what I wanted to support Etienne's point. Like these companies are jumping in trying to get their stuff compared, but if it's not lucrative and they're not growing more, they're like, oh well, that's why you don't hear it publicly yet.
I'd like to see the comparison of the carbon footprint there, Stephen. What can you comment to that? Because we know for making synthetic fertilizer, you need the Haber process, which requires a lot of energy. So if you use all of this fossil fuel energy, yeah. What can you say about the carbon footprint in that comparison?
Plus the material inputs are from mining, right? So
Sure.
Yeah. I mean, it's a pretty nasty process. If you don't know how fertilizer is made, like fertilizer and chicken nuggets are two things you don't want to know how they're made. Um,
Or
but like,
sausage.
yeah, sausage and chicken nuggets. But yeah, I mean, this is legitimately what it looks like. You have one, two, three, four. You have seven different cultivars, essentially all growing in a similar field. And as far as carbon footprint, we didn't actually analyze it, but that was the whole purpose of what we were doing was to explain to fiber clothing companies, that if you want to reduce the cost of clothing and reduce the cost of the fibers you're getting for other countries, you should actually help invest into these farmers on the front end of their grows. Um, they heard it, but I think they were like, so how much does fertilizer cost? We are like, the point is to get you to not have to do this, like to support these farmers growing organically. So of course there's a carbon footprint difference, but it's not hitting the dollars enough yet. It won't make a change in the industry until like people are like, oh, it costs too much to go to China and get these products, or this fertilizer costs too much. Because you could easily grow organic. Like when I say we put these clovers in the ground in early spring, that's the only source of nutrients that we used. So there's no reason for you to have to pump these fertilizers into the ground the way that we do.
Well, if you're a company that sells fertilizer, that's not news they want to hear. And most of those companies that sell fertilizer, like Bayer, they've all bought seed companies. And guess what? Now they're genetically modifying their seeds to basically be resistant to their chemicals, right? It's kind of like the perfect storm because again, there is no chemical that's actually registered for use on cannabis, right? Because all of that would basically cause, well, it not only do you have to show an impact or your environmental impact of what applying that chemical to that field and that crop has environmentally to that area, but also, it's got to be something that's effective. But then by the time those food crops get to the market, um, it's either hydrolytically or photolytically decomposed, so it's no longer any residuals that would still be on the food or produce would not be toxic, right? So that's what makes an ag chemical today, not just a chemical that kills weeds or fungus or insects. It's one that does so at a very low use rate and then, breaks down into safe metabolites that can be consumed.
So this is a field of I was talking about those bear genetics. Well, it was called Ursa Alta and Ursa Ultra. So Alta and
Cool name.
Ultra. This is a field of Ultra, I do
Oh,
believe,
wonderful.
that has just been harvested. And there's Caleb with Rob, and that's McPartland what came out. So it was fascinating to hang out with Rob and Mr. McPartland, considering that they were much less walk through these fields. Now they were showing us a decorticator, and you can see where they're standing, how high up it cut the hemp. It's definitely, I would definitely be upset if my hemp was still knee high and still in the ground, but they were just trying to show us fields of what it would look like specifically. And so there it is after it's been, harvested. And this harvester, as you can see from the left there, they've got 4 different blades. So they were cutting it at 4 different levels, which is something we don't really do. And it was really kind of that, what are you doing, guys, sort of situation industrially, right? Because
Is this
most harvest,
September 18 when these plants
yep,
are being cut? What
yep.
week in September is this? Do you know?
September 11th and 13th of last year,
Okay.
right now.
Yeah.
So how many days in the ground would that represent?
They were planting things in June, July. Most of it was back in May, but again, they're spread over 30 acres, so they've got different fields and different field trials depending on what and where, from density trials to full-on fields of certain genetics to homogeneous zones to breeding zones to also spacings. They were also doing spacing tests to see, how well and how large some of these CBD varietals are growing, because that's what people are doing, as opposed to they also had the density trials to see how well they were growing at an average of what Stephen was saying earlier, about 1 million plants per acre. So they're just trying to see what works, what doesn't work, what's worth keeping around, what's worth breeding, what's worth, there's a whole bunch of studies that are going to come out of that field that we haven't seen yet. That's going to continue to come out, and even is linked to this year's genetic studies, as well as plant studies. So research is finally happening. On top of that, we have the USDA working on, and in time they're going to make a homogeneous hemp varieties that you'll be able to get and grow. Their idea when we were talking to them is to create specific genetics where eventually they'll create a one genetic where, depending on how you use it with light manipulation, will depend on what you get out of it. If you want to grow it for industrial, you can do it that way. If you want to grow it for flowering, you can manipulate it light that way. That's their 10-year sort of, when we were kind of talking to some of them. Eventually, that's what they want to create, right? Because that's what they've done with grapes, apples, oranges, and everything else. Because Geneva, where we were there, they also do the genetics for apples up there. So we got to see a lot of apple orchards. A lot of apple orchards were right next to the hemp and stuff. So it's just fascinating to see, the agricultural students working with such biodiversity. But at the same time, we had the peligro, warning, sprayed apples right here, right next to a field of hemp. So, I don't think the optimization of field trials of every genetic is necessarily properly perfect, but research is happening and ongoing, which I love to see.
So, question, like, so, when you're looking at this, were they harvesting that for flour or fiber? Like, what was the intention behind that? Because I saw a bunch
They're
of stuff.
testing it all. They're trying to see what's for. Most of it is those are mostly fiber trials and things like that, but some of them are seed trials, because again, there's discussion about using, and it's just been approved for chicken feed. Because we know that, so there was seed trials as well to see, what's the most weighty plant, what has the most nutritious. All those things are behind the scenes things that are ongoing that we don't have access to until those studies are released, or unless we knew the students that were there. And we did get introduced to a lot of the students who were the student growers, because they were the ones who gave their presentations on their fields, as you would expect them to do. And that was fascinating to see as well, because I've never seen students give, this is my field of cannabis. Here's my field of cannabis and why. Fucking loved every goddamn minute of it.
Great. So are they feeding mainly whatever Bayer's giving them for nutrients?
Hydroponic system, They did give us they do a soil prep, but they're doing it all on hydroponic, and they're doing it off their own mix. I would assume they did not go into that. I would assume it's a large company supplying them the salts and all that to make that happen, because I took pictures, because it's a very large industrial hydroponic system. It's not small. It's very seriously laid out, as well as tarps laid out over it, so that the students can go and gather and not worry about sinking into the fucking mud or, clay, etc. On top of that, they have apiaries nearby. And I would love to see and test some of that honey from those apiaries to see, because we know they can carry cannabis and into it. And, I kind of pointed to one of the researchers. Anybody doing studies on those apiaries? That's a different department studying those. That's the inside. I was like, well, I would kind of bring them in. They're kind of cross happening here. It'd be interesting to see the bioactivity of that honey, if there was any, between the pollen and the resin that they're carrying, etc.
So
Males
is
love,
there
men love pollen.
is there commercial chicken production right now that's happening with hemp seed derived feed that is making a more
Not
healthier
not
chicken?
yet, but we know that years ago there was a DEA competition for a barbecue, and one of our friends took hemp seed and fed it to his chickens. And guess which chicken won the DEA's fucking barbecue contest? The hemp-fed chicken. And that was years ago. Okay, so we've known that it produces a very healthy feed for animals. Now it's just been approved, Mark. So now
Great.
who has enough feed to produce to actually get that? I don't think that
There
people
are
are,
studies.
there are.
Yeah, there's studies about if you look at the omega-3 to omega-6 fatty
Right.
acid concentration in an egg, the if you give them traditional like corn feed or whatever kind of feed they're giving them, compared to hemp feed, they have a higher ratio of omega-3s, which are the
Right.
healthier ones. They have a higher
Are
ratio of omega-3s to omega-6s.
aren't they doing that like Eggland's Best, that brand right now, Steven? Aren't they doing that by just supplementing chicken feed with salmon oil, fish oil? I think that's how they do that, right?
Yeah,
But
yeah,
but
krill, seaweed, fish oil, any
right.
of those
But
high in
basically
omega-3.
but basically what it says is that chickens can be a vehicle for those omega acids into the human diet, right? Which is a healthier chicken.
Yeah, massively. So, I mean, if you're thinking about this traditional feed versus this feed that has it's a healthier egg. I hate making it very like blanket statement, but higher ratio of omega-3s to
Right,
omega-6s that's a healthier fat egg.
right.
Um, so I think Texas, don't quote me, I think Texas was the first state to actually look into changing their feed laws and approving it for animal feed.
But I would also assume that it wouldn't just be restricted to the egg, but it would also be in the meat of the chicken, right? So if the chicken is on a hemp seed diet, that those omegas and polyunsaturated acids are making their way all throughout the tissues in the chicken, not just the embryo and the
It,
egg,
it
right?
it made it tasty enough to win the DEA's own barbecue
Yeah, yeah.
contest.
Yeah,
And
I
that's
think you're
weird
also
because
more.
that's weird because you know that these oils basically smell like fish, right? So it'd be like, oh, looks like chicken but tastes like fish. I wouldn't think that that would be a winner at a barbecue, but who knows? I think actually, if I remember correctly, the omegas themselves aren't the things that have the fishy flavor. I think what it is, and this totally makes sense, right? Those 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 highly unsaturated acids are very prone to thermooxidative degradation, right? Like when you smell stale peanuts or stale cooking oil or stale cookies, any air that gets to a baked good that has unsaturated fats in them, even if they're loaded with preservatives, ultimately will degrade. And you could smell kind of like that rotten peanut kind of smell or just old oil kind of smell. And I think maybe that's where the fishy taste
Like
comes from.
turpentine.
Yeah, but it's strange too, because I know that like in some hemp extracts where they were just getting it from bulk fields that probably had a bunch of males with seeds, guess what? It tasted fishy.
Yeah.
Even in the distillate, it had like this fishy kind of, and we're like, where is that fish coming from? But it totally makes sense. It's coming from the seed oil.
Well, yeah. Brock
The
says,
fishy. Oh, sorry, Marcus.
no, you go ahead.
I was gonna say I hate to tell everybody again how the sausage is made, but the
Yeah.
reason omega-3, the pills taste like fish is because fish are just like us. They don't naturally make their own omega-3s. Fish produce omega-3s because omega-3s are natural in seaweed. So that is the most abundant source of omega-3s. Naturally occurring seaweed is rich in omega-3s. We get most of our omega-3s from fish. Guess what they do? You think they extract the omega-3s? No, they grind every single part of the fish up. And what you're getting is legitimately leftover fish residue in that pill. And I'm saying this because I actually take seaweed omegas, and there's zero fish smell,
Zero.
taste, no burp.
Right.
When you
No
burp and
burp.
you taste fish, that's
Yeah.
because they grind the entire fish down just to get the omega-3s.
Nasty. That's just nasty. Right, we're fucking vampires, I'm telling you, dude. Some of the shit we do is like absolutely
Yeah,
nightmarish.
that's like grinding an entire apple tree to make apple juice.
Yeah, but it's
Yeah,
less sadistic when it's like something that bleeds and has bones and eyeballs and shit.
Yeah, but in the fish, yeah, you need to use the whole body because yeah, all those omega-3s, they're spread out and distributed in
Well,
all
I
their
love that they didn't
right?
decide to find someone who could extract them. They're just like, listen, I think your best bet is just a commercial industrial grinder. We'll grind those puppies up and that'll be it right there.
Well, then they extract it from the solid material that's left. But yeah, it's you're never gonna get it all the way pure from that if you do it
Oh,
that
then
way. I
we could do
agree.
omega dabs.
Omega dabs.
Because yeah, those fishy amines, they dissolve in that omega-3 and it's just gonna be really hard to remove it all.
Yeah,
Hemp seeds, man.
insane.
That's why you got to get your hemp seeds in your diet.
Yep, you do. It's very good to have. It's amazing how many
Hemp
people in the
seeds,
cannabis
flax
industry
seeds,
don't
right? Like,
consume them.
yeah.
Well, and to go back to what Brian was talking earlier, that's why fish meal makes such good fertilizer, because it's so rich with nitrogen, right? Soluble nitrogen.
Yeah, that is true. Well, I think we got about 11 more minutes. I'm going to cut it short today as I have some responsibilities that I have to get done. And I wasn't anticipating rain today, although it's lovely and I'm going to enjoy it. But yeah, we got 11 minutes left to talk about what we shall talk about. Seed meal for
So
chicken
as of
feed.
August of 2025, U.S. officials recognize hemp seed meal for chicken feed. So there you go. It's only as recent as last month.
Yes.
So
And if you want to get that from your chicken, you can also get it from those same hemp seeds they're feeding the chicken. So you can just cut the chicken completely out of the
and get all the protein and all the oil, and right?
yeah, exactly. However you want to do it. You can also go the chicken route and feed the chickens the hemp seeds, because that's it's pretty cool.
For those who don't know, hemp seeds have more digestible protein than soybeans.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yep. Nuttier flavor. You can get hemp seed oil. You can buy expeller pressed hemp seed oil. I use it all the time. And you can get it in pill form. You can get it in oil form. You can also get the cracked seed meat
The
to
hulled seed, yeah.
hulled seeds. Sprinkle them
The
right onto
embryos.
your salads, etc. You can hemp
I
seed
think that's
oil.
your best source right there. Those
Those-
dehulled seeds, depending on how fresh the packaging date is, and as long as they don't
Oh,
have any type
yummy,
of
yummy,
rancid,
yummy too, man.
it's the goods, man. It's definitely, in my opinion, the way it's supposed to be packaged for you to get it without although hemp seed is insane. When you extract it the right way, it can last a very, very long time. we did some extracting using Indra's processes there, and it made the most golden oil. It made the whitest protein powder isolate that was like higher than most of the things that were on the market. It was quite spectacular. It's too bad we couldn't figure that out, but cool that it works.
I'd love to see roasted seeds that you could put on salads and, you know,
I think my buddy Paul Bobby was doing the roasted. He had roasters, and I
There
think
have been some roasted granolas I've seen where they actually roast the hemp seeds in them, but they're usually small batch and regional sort of things because, again, hemp seeds also can go rancid quick. So that's the other thing is you want to consume them, quickly, and depending on how you cook or, toast them, that's
or
a fine.
separate them.
Yeah.
Get the
Yeah.
protein powder and the oils away from one another, and then they both last like for an insanely amount of length of time before they go bad. Even at room temperature, not in a fridge. It's surprising.
Yeah, bad hemp seed. I've had it before. It will fuck you up. It's not.
Oof.
Highly do not recommend it. It's not a good sensation on the body, and you will get the shits.
Well, let's do a
Well,
dab here.
yeah, do a dab. I was just gonna say thank you to Hashish. Thank you to Hashish for being such a good friend over all these years. My goodness. There it is. Just a little ball of hashish. I'm going to be smoking some of this hashish today, and I will let you guys know next week how it was. I want to smoke it at like 2 weeks cured, a month cured, 2 months cured, 6 months cured, and really create a nice little sort of notebook of flavors and
You
just
got to get a
overall.
refrigerator or a freezer and do like Kenny used to do. He would age them in years. So he would come out, okay, this one's 6 years, this one's 5 years, this one's 4 years, this is 3 years. It's a
Yes.
unique experience of aging because supposedly back in the day, they used to take the Afghan keef, right, bury it in the ground for 2 years, and then they would take it out and press it. Whereas, we do everything. And of course, I guarantee you there was probably some hashishine in there. But yeah, they stopped aging supposedly in the 60s, late 60s, due to, market demand. Why wait 2 years when they could adulterate it or spike it with wax or other types of situations, unfortunately. But traditionally, yeah, it was buried 3 feet deep for 2 years on average. Imagine that.
Unbelievable. Well, I want to shout out Puffco and the Press Club for sponsoring today's show, as well as Bubble Bags. Check us out at bubblebag.com. I think we just cut the prices like literally in half on Bubble Bags. So go take advantage of that. And I'm hoping next week to actually have, I've been talking about this glass church. I don't know if I'll have anything prepared for the actual full glass church, but I was talking to Slinger. And I was like, would you want to do like a one-on-one kind of interview or like come on with a bunch of glass blowers? And he's like, let's do them both. So I think we will bring Slinger on maybe next Sunday. So maybe get some questions prepared, Etienne and Colin. And we'll see. I'm not 1,000% sure that he's going to be here next week, but he definitely was excited to come on and share some stories and
I'm gonna have to pull
share
my
some.
Slinger piece out of my closet then.
You'll definitely have to pull your Slinger piece out of your closet. That is going to be essential. So we will be back next Sunday. I'm going to make the YouTube page like today for next Sunday's show because lately I've been making it like last night. I think I made this one last night and sent the link out. Sketchy boo. But thank you, Stephen, for popping in, as well as Jeff and Colin and Dr. Mark and Etienne. And anyone that may have come and gone already, as well as everyone that's watching. We appreciate you guys. Hillbilly Herb, thanks for sharing that plant. Thanks, Best Friend Farms, Brian, for sharing his beautiful videos of farm and grow and whatnot. Just always appreciate him as well. And go check out the Press Club at thepressclub.co. Go check out Puffco at puffco.com and go check out Bubblebag at bubblebag.com. Yeah. .ca even maybe. I don't know. I don't know my own address. Fuck, go look for it. You'll figure it out. Anyway, thanks everybody. I hope you enjoy the rest of your Sunday afternoon with loved ones, with friends, with great hashish. Let's may the full mount bless your bowl sooner than later. In fact, maybe we'll change that up this week and say, may some incredibly wonderful traditional hash bless your bowl sooner than later, because my goodness, I'm telling you, there's a real sensory aspect of holding this hash and how much power it feels. This thing is strong. I wish I could shave each of you off a piece and you could each enjoy a nice little bowl, some wonderful hashish. Thanks, everybody. We'll see you next week. Peace out.